Welcome to the Fantasy Audiobook. Man in Another World, Awakening Hokage System. Chapter 61. Is this a technique that can control iron? A flash of shock flashed in Lu Wu's eyes. Compared with Yang Shui and the other three's lack of understanding of this technique, as a mentor, he thought of more. Then, his body trembled with excitement involuntarily. It's holy. The words he had not yet said were immediately suppressed, but his eyes looking at Lei Ting became brighter. Yang Shui, Kai Ming, Lu Wu, thank you Junior for saving my life. Yang Shui and three others expressed their gratitude to Lei Lei at the same time. Haha, they are all students of Fulong Academy. Senior sister Yang Shui and the two seniors should not worry too much. It is necessary to help each other when going out. Lei Lei laughed and immediately pretended to be a senior executive in his previous life, boasting. Junior, I can't believe your strength, you are so handsome. Yang Shui's face was full of excitement, and her eyes were shining with little stars as she looked at Lei Lei. Senior, it's not that exaggerated. Lei Lei saw Yang Shui's nymphomaniac look on his face, and immediately felt a bad feeling. I never expected that I would meet you here, otherwise. Yang Shui looked at Lei Lei with bright eyes, pursed her lips, and said, I was still thinking about how to find you and help you complete your mission, but I didn't expect you to be so pretentious. Yang Shui's tone changed, and she spoke with a half-smile. Lei Lei suddenly became embarrassed, touched her hair, and giggled, Senior, it's an accident, an accident. Then should I also tell Sister Yue? Haha. When Lei Lei heard her mention Sister Yue, he immediately fell into a dilemma and could only hide it with a chuckle. Cough, cough. When Lu Wu saw Yang Shui mocking Lei Ting, he immediately wanted to rescue him. However, just as he opened his mouth, the injury in his body was affected and he immediately started coughing. Teacher, are your injuries serious? Are you okay? Yang Shui asked three people at the same time, her voice was a little anxious and concerned. I'm okay. Lu Wu stood and relaxed his body. Suddenly a huge pain came over him, and his face instantly turned pale. In order not to worry them, he was just holding back, and big beads of sweat continued to flow from his forehead. Let me take a look. Lei Lei looked at Lu Wu's endured injuries. He had experienced this kind of severe pain, and more than once. Therefore, I admire Lu Wu's mental perseverance even more. After hearing Lei Ting's words, four pairs of eyes immediately looked at Ting Ting, sizing up Ting Ting with doubts and disbelief in their eyes. In their minds, only light magicians have superb healing magic, and thunder is not one of them. I don't have a big problem. I'd better go back to Warcraft Town to see a doctor first. Lu Wu looked surprised, but he didn't take it seriously, thinking that Lei Lei only knew a little bit about medical skills. Although light healing magic is powerful in this world, there are too few light magicians, so few that ordinary people have no access to them, which has given rise to doctors who specialize in curing common injuries and illnesses. Don't move, lie down. Seeing that Lu Wu was about to leave, Lei Lei quickly called out and appeared beside Lu Wu in a flash. Ignoring their surprised looks, Lei Ting began to check Lu Wu's injuries. But they didn't stop him. They just stared blankly, as if they were stupid. This was convenient for Lei Lei. When he was learning the healing technique, the system also gave him the basic medical ninjutsu. As long as it wasn't a serious injury, he could still barely take a look. How lucky. After Lei Lei examined Lu Wu, he touched his chin with a heavy expression on his face. What's wrong? Yang Shui and the others suddenly tensed up when they looked at Lei Lei, regardless of whether he knew medical skills or not. Don't worry, I have a chest injury and a few broken ribs. Fortunately, I only stabbed my lungs in the fight. If it was the heart. Lei Lei looked at Lu Wu with wide eyes and exclaimed. However, you can't drag it out any longer. If your lung is punctured, you can't do strenuous exercise. You must get treatment immediately. What should we do? Yang Shui and the others suddenly became anxious. Ahem, don't worry, I can persevere. Lu Wu comforted him, looking at Lei Lei with shock at the same time. He understood his injury, but Lei Lei checked it out so easily. Isn't this unreasonable? You guys stand back, Lei Lei said quickly to the three of them, then raised his hand to form a seal. Ninjutsu, healing technique. Thunder's hands lit up with green light. The green color was deeper than when Lei Lei used it for the first time, and he pressed directly towards Lu Wu's chest. Lu Wu suddenly felt a refreshing feeling in his chest, and then a sore and painful feeling appeared in his chest. This is. Yang Shui saw the green light shining on Lei Lei's palm, and then an even more incredible picture appeared in front of her eyes. The wound on Lu Wu's chest healed slowly. Although it was very slow, they still noticed it. Here, light magic. Looking at the green light made them feel insane. The green color and the light system are not compatible at all. Why is there any therapeutic effect? This phenomenon has shattered their understanding of the world. They couldn't calm down at all. Yang Shui and the other three looked at each other with shock on their faces. Although they had many doubts, the three of them did not dare to disturb Lei Lei. After a while, Lei Lei performed comprehensive treatment on Lu Wu and slowly exhaled. Okay, don't engage in violent fighting in the past few days. Lei Lei dispelled ninjutsu and did not forget to warn Lu Wu. Lei Lei looked at the healed wound on Lu Wu's chest and thought to himself that he was lucky. For such an injury, the healing technique could only simply heal the wound, but the broken ribs might need to be healed slowly. What he never expected was that with the blessing of the primary immortal body, the healing technique was also enhanced, and it actually achieved the effect of sage jutsu. So scary. That's great, mentor. Yang Shui's face was full of excitement, and she hugged him directly while Lei Lei was stunned. Lei Lei felt the softness and his mind suddenly went blank. Wow Sao, this silly girl is so fierce. Well, Lu Wu seemed to see Lei Lei's white eyes, and immediately interrupted Yang Shui. Okay, Xiao Shui, don't be so happy. Ha ha. Kai Ming and Lu Wu suddenly showed kind smiles, but Yang Shui became angry and looked at Lei Lei with a vicious look. I didn't provoke you. Lei Ting secretly despised him, but of course he didn't dare to say it out loud. Women are fickle. By the way, don't tell anyone about what happened here. Lu Wu said cautiously. Especially things related to thunder, don't let them out. Okay, mentor. Yang Shui and the others looked serious. That's fine. Lei Lei was secretly happy when he saw Lu Wu's explanation. He had no intention of hiding the strength he revealed today, but the fewer people who knew about it, the better. After Lu Wu looked at the serious expressions of the three people, he then told Lei Lei, try not to expose the healing magic easily. Why? Because of the light system. Lu Wu said with a solemn expression, the holy cult will not sit idly by. What? Holy religion? Lei Lei was shocked when he heard Lu Wu's words. The holy cult is a giant, a transcendent existence in this world. Almost most of the light magicians were trained by them, and they are super powerful. However, you don't have to worry. With the academy and the empire here, they don't dare to act recklessly. Lei Lei just nodded. The power system is different and it will definitely attract the attention of those behemoths. However, if the soldiers come to cover up the water and the earth, as long as they don't provoke him, everyone will be fine. After chatting for a few words, the few people set off on their way back. Lei Lei did not go hunting for Warcraft anymore, but returned to Warcraft Town with them. 2 days later, in the afternoon. I can finally have a good rest. Lei Lei looked at the Warcraft Town with people coming and going, and suddenly felt a sense of relief. This time entering the Warcraft Mountains was really full of twists and turns. People were almost buried inside, but luckily there was no danger. Let's go, find an inn and have a good night's rest. We'll go back to the college tomorrow. Lu Wu glanced at the 4 people behind him who looked tired. Then hurry up. Yang Shui's eyes were bright. She couldn't wait to clean it up. In the Warcraft Mountains, there was no condition at all. He even rushed directly towards the Warcraft town. This girl. Lu Wu looked at Yang Shui's eager temper. He couldn't show his dignity as a teacher at all, and just said lightly, let's go, don't keep her waiting. Warcraft Town, Black Wolf Mercenary Group, Butler Chen. Lei Lei thought for a moment silently, and then followed. In Warcraft Town, the lobby on the first floor of the inn was stained with a blush under the sunset. The 5 people sat around the corner. After half a day's rest, they recovered full of energy. The 5 people sat in the hall eating and listening to the discussions of many mercenaries. Brother got rich again today. Ha ha, Xiao Yi, I have to thank that little brother for his blessing. That's right, these days there is no pressure from the gangsters of the Black Wolf Mercenary Group, so the income is still very good. Hee, after the devastating blow to the Black Wolf Mercenary Group, the gate of the station has not been opened once until now. They must have been beaten to death. Is it that exaggerated? Ha ha. Such words caused many mercenaries to burst into laughter. Ha ha, that young man is so strong. He wiped out the Black Wolf mercenary group of hundreds of people in Warcraft Town. That kind of strength, I can't even imagine it. However, their captain has entered the depths of the Warcraft Mountains and has not returned yet. Everyone should be careful. What are you afraid of? News just came that his body has been seen deep in the Warcraft Mountains. He is no longer human. It's a lie. When did this happen? I lied to you that I was a puppy. The Black Wolf mercenary group in the Warcraft Mountains was almost wiped out. There are only 2 or 3 sick cats left. There is basically nothing to worry about during this period. It couldn't be that little brother who did it again, right? He seems to have also entered the depths of the Warcraft Mountains. Who knows? Come and drink. When Lu Wu and others heard these people look at each other, the Black Wolf mercenary group was almost wiped out. Or was it a young guy who did it? It was so exciting. Then several people looked directly at Lei Lei, their eyes full of doubts. The time when Lei Lei entered the depths of the Warcraft Mountains seemed to be about the same as what they said. And the strong strength displayed seemed to be talking about him. I don't know how powerful it is. Yang Shui stared at Lei Lei, pursed her lips, and stared at Lei Lei. Don't look at me like that. Lei Lei smiled bitterly, his face full of innocence. Why are these people so aware? After scanning the 4 people, he smiled dryly and said, I didn't do it, and I don't have the strength. Lei Lei quickly denied it, for fear of being misunderstood by them. The cannibalistic look in his eyes gave him a sense of fear. Not bad. Yang Shui seemed to be relieved, with excitement on his face. Those of us who claim to be geniuses have been overpowered by you. If you are really that person, then we should how to live. Although I don't know how strong he is, the absolute strength of a mercenary team that can surpass 100 people is terrifying. Kai Ming also said excitedly. That's right. Lu Wu didn't say much, but he clenched his fist fiercely. Lei Ting was a little embarrassed. He praised him in front of him. What else could he say? He nodded quickly. This feeling was so amazing. In fact, it's not that he wants to pretend to be B, it's because the system insists on it. However, this feeling of being praised in person is very good. At this moment, Lei Lei frowned. The mini-map shows 2 little red men. Could it be that the people from the Black Wolf mercenary group discovered him and came to monitor him? He really didn't stop. There was a faint killing intent in his eyes. Let's go. Lu Wu saw that it was almost done at this time, and immediately said, go back and rest, and rush back to the academy tomorrow. Yes, mentor. Late at night, the bright moon has already hung high. Lei Lei turned over and sat up. The 2 little red dots on the small map were still there, and his eyes were focused. No matter who it is, let's solve it first. Lei Lei thought to himself and quickly formed seals with his hands. Shadow clone jutsu. But his hands did not stop, and at the same time as the clone appeared, the figure instantly disappeared from the room. Instantaneous body technique. It's really a good skill for assassination. In the dark corner of the alley opposite the inn door, Lu Qi looked up from time to time and looked at the window in the middle of the 2nd floor. At the same time, he glanced at the inn door from the corner of his eye. As an elite agent of the killer organization, he would never relax when on a mission. To become an elite spy, one relies not on strength but on penultimate's disguise. His current costume is that of a tramp. In order to be more realistic, he directly exchanged clothes with a tramp. This time he received the task of tracking a young person in the town of Warcraft. Today, he finally waited for that person. Due to his identity, he only observed from a distance and did not get close. Because it is impossible for a homeless person to enter the inn. Time passed. Lu Qi sat down in the corner, took out a piece of steamed bun given by others and started eating it. The cold and hard steamed buns made it difficult for him to swallow for a while. Is it tasty? Suddenly a sound made his body tremble. Lu Qi's face changed slightly, then he pretended to be confused and looked up. With the faint moonlight, when he saw the slightly blurry face clearly, his eyes shrank. However, he covered it up very well and said pitifully, it's delicious. Little brother, if you eat and sleep in the open every day, it's good to have a full stomach. Hey, Lei Lei sneered, if it weren't for the little red man shown on the mini-map, I would have been deceived by you. Lei Lei looked at the homeless man closely, and after a moment, he said coldly, you're still pretending. I've seen spies like you on TV a lot. What? Lu Qi was shocked. How could he be discovered? How did he discover it? His mind was spinning. What a genius. You disguise yourself as a tramp. Judging by the tender skin and tender flesh under your collar, you don't know how to endure the life of sleeping in the open air. Let me tell you. As long as you reveal the person behind the scenes, I'll let you go. Little brother, I don't know what you said. Lu Qi was really panicking at this time. Exposed. Lu Qi understood immediately. His face suddenly changed color, and with a move of his wrist, 3 flying arrows quickly shot towards Thunder. Hidden weapon. It was a hidden weapon hidden in his arm, and he took action very simply. After taking action, he didn't stop for a moment, turned around and ran away. A flash of killing intent flashed in Lei Lei's eyes, and his figure immediately disappeared. When he appeared, he was already in front of Lu Qi. Lu Qi, who ran away in panic, looked at the figure that suddenly appeared. Before he could react, his body flew away. Bang! His body hit the ground heavily, and Lu Qi immediately spat out a mouthful of blood and looked at Lei Lei in horror. Tell me, you can't escape. Lei Lei knelt down and asked, tell me, who asked you to come? The corner of Lu Qi's mouth moved, and he looked at the man who had lost his patience and showed his murderous intent. He panicked. In their line of work, it was normal to face life and death, but when the time came, he didn't want to die. I said, don't kill me. Lu Qi immediately confessed. I will tell you everything. Explain. I am from the killer organization. A killer organization? Yes, I am just a little spy who received the task of monitoring you a few days ago. Then how do you connect? There is no connection, my task is to suddenly appear in my room. Then how do you contact us? It's this. Lu Qi took out a small cloth bag from his body and handed it to Lei Ting. Lei Lei took it over and found a beetle inside. He frowned. What does this do? Don't underestimate this little thing. This is a level 1 monster green-winged beetle. It has no attack ability, but it has special abilities. Green-winged beetles exist in pairs, and their love is as strong as gold. They will look for each other no matter where they are in the world, or anywhere. The female beetle you have on your hand will keep releasing scent, and the other male beetle will follow the scent and come looking for it. The real killer will come with the male beetle. Yes, are you 2 spies working together? Lei Lei put away the small bag and asked Lu Qi. No, it's easy to scare off the enemy. Then why is there another spy? That. Lu Qi showed a look of contempt and said, he is just a newbie who doesn't know anything, and he accidentally exposed his identity. Oh, Lei Lei suddenly became interested and asked, tell me about it. They are from the Black Wolf mercenary group. I just don't know who they are spying on. Okay, thank you, then you can go. Really, thank you so much. But before he finished speaking, his neck was broken and he lost his life. Don't be a spy again in the next life. Lei Lei said lightly, and the figure disappeared instantly. As for the body, someone will deal with it, and no one will check it. It is just a homeless man. Black Wolf mercenary group. I didn't go looking for you, but you came again. Rooftop on the west side. A dark figure was lying on it, seemingly asleep. Are you tired from lying down? Suddenly a voice suddenly appeared, breaking the peace here. Who? The man stood up instantly and looked up. It's me, the one you're waiting for. Lei Lei looked at him indifferently. No. How is that possible? You weren't in the room all the time. When the man said this, he suddenly became frightened. The clone was deceived again, that's the clone. That's right, but there's no prize. Lei Lei walked up to him and asked coldly, tell me, why are you spying on me? You devil, go to hell. The mercenary didn't know where the courage came from, and suddenly punched Thunder. Humph. Lei Lei, who was already on guard, shouted coldly, and probed the void with his right hand. A long sword with a cold glow suddenly appeared in his hand, and then he swung it. Poof! The sharp sword blade instantly cut through the man's neck, and blood spattered everywhere. The man clutched his neck and fell down unwillingly. Since you don't want to tell me, then just ask Deacon Chen directly. In the western suburbs of Warcraft Town, the Black Wolf mercenary group is stationed. Under the dim moonlight, the station of the Black Wolf mercenary group seemed particularly quiet. Without the noise and bustle of the past, it seemed to be deathly silent, but the lights were still brightly lit. Lei Lei looked at the closed door coldly. The small map showed that little red men were constantly moving, obviously mercenaries patrolling. Although the door is closed and the outside looks particularly deserted, the inside of the station is actually heavily guarded. Loose on the outside and tight on the inside. But for Thunder, which has a small map with a perspective effect, it is full of loopholes, as if it is undefended. The Thunder figure instantly disappeared into the darkness, passed through the patrolling mercenaries, and slowly approached the central hall of the station. You fool, you hasn't the light magician you invited arrived yet. Deacon Chen endured the pain. His body was tortured by the sand and iron, which was unbearable for a moment, and he shouted at the mercenaries below with a ferocious face. Not yet, Steward Chen. The closest stone city to Warcraft Town is more than 100 kilometers away. The mercenary looked at Butler Chen's cold eyes and immediately changed his words. Those light magicians are all very valuable. With this short distance, it won't take 7 or 8 days to get here. I don't care what method you use, even if you lift it, you have to lift it before dark tomorrow. Deacon Chen looked impatient. Yes, after saying that, he hurriedly ran out. I didn't expect that kid's methods to be so terrifying. A trace of resentment flashed in the eyes of the senior swordsman sitting below, and he said coldly, when the strong men from the Imperial City branch come, they will definitely catch that kid and let him. He also tasted the pain. Deacon Chen also nodded with a gloomy face. In the last battle, he was hit by Thunder's trick. The sand and iron injected into his body could hardly be excreted. Although it could not kill him for the time being, it still caused him unbearable pain. Thinking of this, his right hand unconsciously touched the empty sleeve on the left, and his eyes were full of resentment. The pain of a broken arm made him hate it even more. Deacon Chen, has that kid really returned to Warcraft Town? A flash of fear flashed in the senior swordsman's eyes, and he didn't even notice that the tone of his voice changed. Look at your promising appearance, there is nothing to worry about. I have sent people to monitor him. If there is any change, we will get the news, and... Deacon Chen's face flashed with excitement, and he said in a deep voice, I have received the news that the strong men from the branch will arrive in the next couple of days. By then, Deacon Chen clenched his palms fiercely and said through gritted teeth, we must catch that little fool to vent his hatred. Really, the senior swordsman was also overjoyed. He originally thought he would have to wait 4 or 5 days, but he didn't expect it to be so soon. Very good. Other people in the hall also showed excited expressions. In order to guard against Thunder's sudden intrusion, except for the patrolling and vigilant mercenaries, almost all the remaining mercenaries gathered in the hall. The reason why they did not evacuate or leave the station was because they did not dare. If they abandon their base privately, the Black Wolf mercenary group will not tolerate them. We will be on alert during this period. As long as that kid doesn't leave Warcraft Town for a day, we can't let up any slack. Yes. Just when the two of them joined together, a scream suddenly sounded, and the harsh sound immediately attracted everyone present. Hearing the scream, Butler Chen's expression suddenly changed. Bang! Then, a body suddenly crashed into the hall. After a struggle, there was no movement. Deacon Chen glanced at the lifeless mercenary, and with a pair of gloomy eyes, he looked closely at the door, where a figure was standing. It's you. Boy, you are indeed here. I said I will definitely come to visit you. At the gate, Lei Lei, dressed in black, was leaning against the door. With a pair of bright eyes, he stared at the people in the hall indifferently. Finally, his eyes rested on the figure in the middle. Deacon Chen. Everyone in the hall stared blankly at the figure appearing at the door, and the tragic scene suddenly appeared in their minds. In his eyes, a trace of fear emerged unconsciously. It's him. The devil is coming. We are finished. Lei Lei glanced at the mercenaries inside and outside the house who were in some confusion due to his arrival. They seemed to have surrounded him, but in fact they had lost the confidence to fight again, so there was nothing to worry about. Instead, he looked at Deacon Chen's eyes and smiled slightly. Those white teeth looked particularly cold under the light of the lights. Should you be stupid or smart, you not only sent people to monitor me, but also gathered them together. Could it be that? Lei Lei's words were full of murderous intent. Boy, what do you want? We have already paid a heavy price in the Warcraft Mountains, and there is no life and death conflict of interest between us. Deacon Chen looked at Lei Lei with a gloomy face, and he could clearly feel Lei Lei's killing intent. But he didn't dare to make the slightest move. At this moment, the world was turned upside down. We were the swordsmen and I was the flesh and blood. Even if he gathered all the mercenaries here, they wouldn't be able to fight, which made him even more cautious. How did this little fool come so fast? If it had been 2 days later. What do you want? Money. Or, whatever I have, that's fine. Under the threat of death, Deacon Chen had to compromise first. Ha ha. When Lei Lei heard what Deacon Chen lowered his head, he immediately burst out laughing, which was particularly harsh in Deacon Chen's ears. He clenched his only right fist fiercely, with even more humiliation in his eyes. That's what you said. What I want is very simple. After saying this, Lei Lei's eyes were full of murderous intent and he said lightly, it's just a matter of eradicating the roots. His words were very calm, but the murderous intent in his tone filled the entire hall. The mercenaries in the hall suddenly felt as if the temperature had dropped sharply, and there was only a deep chill. Deacon Chen's heart sank even more. Although he had expected it, he did not expect that Lei Lei would be so decisive and even rush into their camp in the middle of the night without giving them any time. Boy, if you really want to go on a killing spree here, then you will completely unite with our Black Wolf mercenaries to take revenge. Then, I'm afraid you will fight to the death, the senior swordsman said ferociously when he saw that Thunder refused to hold back. Hee, isn't there a fight to the death in the Warcraft Mountains? Lei Lei said calmly, but there was a coldness in his smile. And you arranged for someone to deliberately monitor me, aren't you planning to attack me? Is it too late to say these things now? Since you are unkind, then don't ask me to show mercy to you. When the mercenaries in the hall heard Lei Lei's words, their faces immediately turned red and their mouths opened wide. They didn't know how to refute, but the whole cause was because of them. Deacon Chen's eyes suddenly shrank, his right hand held onto the hilt of the sword without any trace, and he said in a deep voice, if you let us go, you can take away all the property in the station. Ha, money. After hearing this, Lei Lei moved slightly. Seeing Lei Lei's reaction, the senior swordsman's eyes flashed with joy, but Lei Lei's next words immediately made him feel cold. I'm not interested in property, but I do accept your lives. Killing you can contribute more experience points to me. This is your only value now. After Lei Lei said this, a murderous intention suddenly emerged, and then his hands moved quickly. If you don't want to die, come with me and cling to him. Cling to him and don't let him release his magic. Seeing that Lei Ting was determined to kill them, Butler Chen shouted loudly, and the fighting spirit in his body suddenly surged out, and then he killed Lei Ting. As long as Lei Ting was entangled, they could rely on their large number of people and maybe even a trace of them. Hope. Misstep. His original intention was to gather everyone in the hall and prevent the sudden attack of Lei Lei from killing them all, but he never expected that Lei Lei would silently break through the warning and come over to kill them. Total misstep. After hearing Deacon Chen's words, especially the many mercenaries in the hall, they immediately became anxious. The hall was spacious, but for swordsmen, for magicians, it was just covered by magic, and they hid in succession. The chances are gone. Kill. Without hesitation, he immediately pulled out his weapon and attacked Thunder. But some smart mercenaries rushed to the wall next to the gate, summoned their fighting spirit and blasted it hard. Snort. Lei Lei looked at the sudden surge of Steward Chen and the mercenaries coming from inside and outside the house, with ridicule in his eyes. Could it be that he was really chatting with them and was not prepared at all? Madness. Fire style. Fire dragon flame bullet. Magnet style. Sand iron giant needle. Two voices sounded in the room at the same time. Lei Lei looked at these mercenaries coldly and sprayed a violent fire dragon into the room. At the same time, the roof was also broken open by countless giant sand iron needles, which covered everyone in the house like arrows. The one using the magnet style is the shadow clone hidden on the roof early in the morning. At this time, the shadow clone and the main body attack at the same time. The mercenaries in the hall were immediately hit by a double blow. No, it's over. Deacon Chen's eyes suddenly turned red when he looked at the attacking fire dragon and spear. The mercenaries in this hall were already the last of his men. A few more survived this blow. Moreover, even he could not protect himself. Deacon Chen looked at the approaching fire dragon and made an instant decision. Holding his fist, he rushed directly to the wall on the side, broke the wall in an instant, and escaped. No, but those mercenaries who had no time to escape were swallowed by the fire dragon and struck by the spear, and they screamed repeatedly. Of the 30 or so mercenaries in the hall, only about a dozen were lucky enough to break through the wall and rush out. The others were buried in the hall. Ha ha, it's over. It's all over. Seeing the burning hall, Deacon Chen suddenly fell into madness. Those who didn't run out basically had no hope. Then, his eyes became even more bloodshot, staring at the figure standing on the roof of the building. Go to hell, break through the air. He held the long sword in his hand and struck hard at thunder. Magnet style, sand iron wall. Bump. A few violent impacts only made a few marks on the iron sand, but he quickly recovered. Impossible. Deacon Chen looked at the martial arts he was proud of and couldn't even break through the defense in front of thunder, which made him feel even more uncomfortable. How is that possible? It's over. We're done. Deacon Chen's strongest attack can't even knock down the opponent's defense. We're all done. Compared with Butler Chen's discomfort, the blow to the mercenaries was greater, and they all showed fear on their faces. Deacon Chen, run. The senior swordsman also rushed out after Deacon Chen. Although his injury had not healed yet, it did not affect his escape speed. Now he only has an instinctive fear of thunder and just wants to escape. Poof. When Butler Chen heard what he said, his face suddenly turned ferocious, and he stabbed him in the heart with a backhand sword. The man looked at Deacon Chen in disbelief. You. He never thought that Deacon Chen would make a sudden attack on him, so he fell down with some regret. Anyone who dares to speak out and escape, kill. Deacon Chen seemed to have fallen into madness, and his sharp voice sounded in many disbelieving ears. Lei Lei looked at the senior swordsman who had fallen down and immediately jumped to his feet. He was not happy at all. Instead, he looked at Butler Chen as if he owed him 100,000 yuan. Who asked you to kill it? It belongs to me, you. After saying this, Lei Lei became more and more angry. The more he thought about it, the angrier he became, and he suddenly became furious. Give me, go to hell. The power in Lei Lei's body suddenly burst out, his hands quickly formed seals, and the ground began to shake. Magnet style, sand iron wave. Nearly 500 points of mental value were consumed to create a large amount of sand iron. Not only that, the nearby sand iron was also being extracted rapidly by him. Then it swept towards the mercenaries in front like a wave. Run. Seeing the sweeping sand iron, the mercenaries no longer ignored Butler Chen's words and rushed outside desperately. It's just that their speed was not as fast as the sand iron that swept over them. Each one of them was swallowed up amidst screams, and then was strangled by the rolling sand iron. Congratulations to host, you killed 15 junior swordsmen and 5 intermediate swordsmen, and gained 1,200 experience points and 600 contribution points. Hehe, they are all wiped out, let me see how you can kill. Lei Lei looked at Deacon Chen, who was the only one to escape, and a smile appeared on his lips. It's just you now. Come on, you will be the next one, we can't let them wait down there. Okay, very good, haha, I want to see how you kill me. Deacon Chen also woke up at this time, shouted loudly, and the fighting energy in his body exploded, rushing out like a sharp sword. Qingfeng step. However, in Lei Lei's stunned eyes, he turned around and ran away, running towards the outside. This is a great irony. Wow Sao, I shouted a lot of nonsense, but you came to kill me. Lei Lei looked at Deacon Chen's final choice and was immediately speechless. When things came to a close, he still ran away alone. She looked down upon him with deep contempt and raised her middle finger directly at his back. It's not authentic, but it's a pity that it doesn't make any sense. Lei Lei's figure disappeared immediately, and he used the teleportation technique regardless of the loss. He could not let Deacon Chen run out of the station, and he did not want to be easily exposed in front of the public. The scene of the battle here has awakened the mercenaries in Warcraft Town, and some bold mercenaries have rushed over. Whoosh! Go to hell! A thunderous ghostly figure appeared in front of Deacon Chen, quickly forming seals with his hands. Fire style, Phoenix Sage fire technique. Boom, boom, boom. Fireballs as big as millstones were blasted at Deacon Chen one after another. The first fireball was cut open by Deacon Chen's sword, followed by the second, third, and fourth fireballs. Deacon Chen kept swinging his long sword towards the fireball, and the fireball exploded, forming sparks in the air in front of him. What the hell kind of magic is this? This is not how instant fireballs work. Deacon Chen's understanding of magic has completely collapsed. But he couldn't care so much, because he chopped off one fireball, and another, it seemed endless. Lei Lei looked at the fireballs that were being chopped open, but he did not give up. Instead, he continuously spit out fireballs and attacked Deacon Chen. Looking at the diffuse flames in front of him, a sneer flashed in his eyes, and he quickly formed seals with his hands, followed by a burst of electric sparks. Lightning style, thunderball. 3 thunder balls formed quickly, and under the cover of the flames that had not completely dispersed in the void, they quickly headed towards Deacon Chen. Deacon Chen, who was slashing continuously, saw another breakthrough flame coming towards him. Without hesitation, he raised his hand and slashed at him. However, by the time he saw clearly that it was the shining silver current, it was already too late. Zila! The thunder ball exploded, and the electric current that burst out instantly shot towards him along the long sword, but he had no time to react and was immediately hit by the explosive electric current. As the current flowed through his body suddenly became paralyzed. Then he watched helplessly as the 2 thunder balls hit him. Ah! The burst of electricity instantly made him scream. Success! Lei Lei suddenly became excited when he heard the screams in front of him, but when he looked at Deacon Chen lying on the ground, he was stunned. You're so stubborn, you didn't even get electrocuted to death. Seeing that Deacon Chen was still struggling to get up, he walked over directly. I'm not willing to accept it. I don't believe that I, a great swordsman, fell into the hands of a young boy. Deacon Chen kept struggling and looked extremely miserable. His whole body was burned by the high temperature generated by the electric current, and he could even smell the smell of roasted meat. At this time, he was like a madman, struggling and roaring, and there was no image of him as a superior. Lei Lei walked to Deacon Chen, looked at the explosive hairstyle that seemed unconventional nowadays, and asked coldly, "Are people from your branch coming?" When Deacon Chen heard Lei Ting's words, he suddenly raised his head and looked closely at Lei Ting, as if he wanted to see the possible fear in Lei Ting. But he was disappointed. No. He is not willing to give in. After a moment, Deacon Chen suddenly smiled and grinned. Hee hee, are you scared? In that case, there's no point keeping you. He already knew the answer, so there was no use keeping him. Lei Lei kicked Deacon Chen in the neck without hesitation. There was a click, and Deacon Chen's neck twisted instantly. After struggling for a while, he lost his life. Congratulations to host, you killed the great swordsman and gained 2,000 experience points and 1,000 contribution points. Not bad, 2,000 experience points. Lei Lei looked around and saw a figure flashing in the distance, and the figure disappeared instantly. The next morning, Lei Lei got up early, washed up and went out. However, Yang Shui and others were waiting for him downstairs early. Lei Lei looked at their eyes and suddenly showed an embarrassed expression, but their expressions seemed to be very serious. Come on, let's finish eating and leave Warcraft Town immediately. Lu Wu said directly to Thunder. What happened? Lei Lei couldn't help but ask while eating breakfast. The station of the Black Wolf mercenary group was attacked last night. Lu Wu said with a serious expression. Wow, who is so fierce that he directly raids other people's lairs? Lei Lei asked doubtfully, his face not red, his heart not beating, his tone full of doubts and gloating. Although Lei Ting's words distanced him from the relationship, Lu Wu still looked at Lei Ting closely, as if he wanted to see the flowers on Lei Ting's face. After a moment, he shook his head and said, I don't know. Then the conversation changed and he said seriously, there are rumors going viral in Warcraft Town that it is related to that boy. Some people saw a vague figure fleeting, but they are not sure. I don't know who that young man is. He's so handsome. Yang Shui was next to him with stars in his eyes. His age is the best age to worship the strong. No matter what world girls are in, they will all worship heroes. Yang Shui's style changed and she said viciously, it would be a shame for those guys to die. Yang Shui was even more upset about the attack by the Black Wolf mercenary group. That's right, they deserved their death. Lei Lei continued, agreeing very much with Yang Shui's words, the Black Wolf mercenary group simply deserved their death. On the contrary, Lu Wu still had a serious face and said to Lei Lei, "Thing Lei, your martial arts ability of controlling sand and iron should not be exposed to outsiders as much as possible." Upon hearing Lu Wu's serious words, Lei Lei was stunned, and then his expression changed slightly. Did he discover something? Or are the traces of sand iron use not cleaned up? Don't think too much, this is for your own good. Lu Wu seemed to see Lei Lei's dazed expression and reminded him again without saying anything more. Instead, his words made Lei Lei even more confused. Lu Wu said to Yang Shui and the others, "We are going back to the academy now. Warcraft Town is now a place of right and wrong. The sooner we leave, the better." "Yes, mentor." One day later, at noon, Shicheng. "Teacher, we are going to Shicheng ahead. We have traveled all day and night, so let's go to Shicheng to rest for one night before leaving." Yang Shui said to Lu Wu, her eyes filled with anticipation. Lu Wu looked at Yang Shui's eyes, nodded helplessly, and said, "Okay. Now that we are far away from Warcraft Town, there is no need to travel overnight." "Haha, the instructor is still kind to us." Yang Shui suddenly cheered, like a little girl. Seeing Yang Shui's appearance, Lei Lei immediately missed Jar, wondering if that little girl had missed him. At this moment, an embarrassed figure suddenly rushed over, and behind him came the sound of fighting and killing. "Stop, or I'll kill you." Behind this man, a senior swordsman led more than a dozen family guards to chase him. Although the young man was good and had the strength of a senior swordsman, he still could not compete with those people. Lei Lei and others were stunned for a moment and shook their heads. Out of fear of getting into trouble, they all stopped by the roadside. The fleeing young man seemed to have discovered Lei Lei and the others, and rushed towards them directly. "Trouble," Yang Shui muttered directly, but did not stop him. Scanning the young man's eyes carefully, Lei Lei suddenly realized that this man seemed familiar, and he couldn't help but frown. Feng family. Just when Lei Lei was frowning, the young man suddenly spoke to them. Lei Lei was slightly startled when he heard this familiar voice. Then I looked over carefully, and my eyes suddenly widened. It was an unexpected person. Lei Lei shouted, "Feng Ning." As thunderous shouts rang out, the charging figure stumbled, and the senior swordsman who caught up behind saw the opportunity and rushed towards Feng Ning. "Go away," Lei Lei shouted angrily, and his figure disappeared from the place at the same time. When he appeared, Lei Lei was already standing in front of Feng Ning and punched the senior swordsman who rushed towards him. Suddenly, the senior swordsman took a few steps back before he stabilized his figure. The senior swordsman looked at Lei Lei, who had not moved at all, and suddenly became vigilant in his heart. At the same time, he threatened, "Who are you? Do you dare to interfere in the affairs of the Ma family in Shicheng?" Although he did not use all his strength in the blow just now, it is not something that ordinary people can withstand. However, the young man not only withstood his blow, but also did not move at all. He was even repelled by his terrifying power. "Thunder, what's going on?" Yang Shui and others also rushed over and hurriedly asked Lei Ting. "Feng Ning, what's going on?" But Lei Lei ignored them at all. Instead, he looked at Feng Ning and asked, "It's you." Feng Ning looked at the person standing in front of him, and suddenly became angry. He immediately got up, grabbed Lei Lei's collar, and yelled, "Thing Lei, you fool, it's not because of you, you know." Quote, "After Jar knew that you secretly went to the Warcraft Mountains to do a mission, and saw that you never came back, he was worried that something might happen to you, so he also secretly ran out and went to the Warcraft Mountains to look for you. Who knew that you were being captured in Shicheng caught? You fool, if it weren't for you, Jar would be in deep danger, and would I be innocently hunted down? Why didn't you die in the Warcraft Mountains?" Speaking of this, Feng Ning almost had tears in his eyes, gritted his teeth and yelled at Lei Lei, and at the same time punched Lei Lei hard in the face. He seemed to be venting his outburst of emotion. What did you say? What did you say?" After Lei Ting was suddenly punched by Feng Ning, he didn't care at all. Instead, after hearing Feng Ning's words, he immediately grabbed Feng Ning's collar and said anxiously, "Jar is in danger, aren't you his brother? Why did you leave Jar alone? Aren't you from the Feng family, a wealthy family in the empire? Did they dare to attack you? Haha, a wealthy family, what's the use of being in a small place like this?" Feng Ning looked at Lei Lei almost mockingly and wanted to strangle him to death. If he hadn't inexplicably gone to the Warcraft Mountains to do a mission, would Jar sneak out and be arrested? Feng Ning thought of the purpose of this trip, pushed away Lei Ting's hands, and said hurriedly, "Quick, quick, there is a manor built on the mountain 20 miles east of Xicheng. Thunder, go over there and ask for help. It's a secret manor of the Feng family. There is a team of swordsmen stationed there for a long time. Go quickly." Lei Lei shook his head slowly, looked at Feng Ning with sharp eyes, and asked, "Is it the Ma family in Xicheng?" When Feng Ning saw Lei Lei shaking his head in rejection, he suddenly became furious and cursed. "You fool, coward, are you still a human being? Feng Ning, listen to me. It's not that I won't go, but that I don't have enough time. I will go to Ma's house in person." After saying this, Lei Lei's eyes flashed with a strong murderous intent. "I will definitely rescue Jar. Trigger the mission, rescue Feng Jiaqi, reward 10,000 experience points and 5,000 contribution points." The unchanging voice of the 9 speakers suddenly sounded in Lei Lei's mind. Thunder's eyes instantly became sharp. "What? You are going to Ma's house, what are you going to do to save me?" Feng Ning's eyes widened when he heard Lei Ting's words. "Classmate Feng Ning, don't worry, we will help." Lu Wu added next to him. "You have to believe me." At this time, Lei Lei's mouth showed cold murderous intent, and he looked up at the senior swordsman and the person behind him. The system is still as powerful as ever. These people have turned into conspicuous little celebrities. How dare you? Ah! The senior swordsman Ma Rong looked at the few people who ignored them and suddenly became angry. However, before he could finish his words, he was hit with a fierce punch. "Go to hell, Ma family." Thunder's figure suddenly appeared beside him. In a furious state, he punched Ma Rong hard and knocked him away instantly. This speed and the sudden attack made the swordsman guarding the Dima family scream in surprise. "Ah!" And Ma Rong screamed and flew out, hitting the ground heavily. You dare to provoke our Ma family, you must die today." Ma Rong struggled, enduring the severe pain, and let out a ferocious howl, with a trace of blood overflowing from the corner of his mouth. Hiss! Looking at Ma Rong's tragic situation, the guards' scalps suddenly went numb, and their faces were even more horrified, and then they looked at Lei Lei. None of them thought that such a young person could be so powerful. Although it was a sudden sneak attack, Ma Rong, as a senior swordsman, had no chance to react. These Ma family guards looked at Lei Lei who was so close, and they all involuntarily took a step back. They did not dare to attack Lei Lei, and the surging momentum disappeared. Ma family. Lei Lei looked at these guards coldly, his eyes suddenly sharp and murderous. "Go to hell." Fire style. Fire dragon flame bullet. As the last seal was completed, thunder struck the powerful fire dragon at the nearby guards. Due to the close distance, these guards had no time to react and were instantly devoured by the fire dragon. Not even a scream, at all. The distance is too close, so close that it kills instantly. Lei Lei suddenly killed him, and everyone fell silent at this moment, looking at Lei Lei in shock as he attacked with anger. Gulu. Feng Ning stopped struggling and looked at Lei Lei with a shocked expression. Are these the same people who chased him so embarrassingly? How is that possible? Thunder. A magician. Feng Ning muttered involuntarily. Nothing is impossible. Lu Wu patted Feng Ning on the shoulder, taking the Thunder's performance as a matter of course. Looking at Feng Ning's unbelievable face, they were also shocked. Believe him, Feng Ning. Yang Shui remained silent, but she was still surprised to see Lei Lei's powerful performance. It was such a person who brought them hope in their despair. Congratulations to host. You killed 3 intermediate swordsmen and 10 junior swordsmen, and gained 800 experience points and 400 contribution points. Now it's your turn. Lei Lei raised his eyes and looked at Ma Rong, whose face was filled with fear. Ma Rong never expected that the family guard who followed him would be killed with one move. And it's all of them, not a single one is left. As a high-level swordsman, he simply cannot do this. Obviously, the young man standing in front of him is such a terrifying existence. He is invincible. Looking at the still burning flame, fear suddenly grew in my heart. He looked up at Lei Lei who was slowly walking towards him. He could no longer care about the pain in his body and said in panic, if you kill me, the Ma family will not let you go. so you still have some status in the Ma family? Lei Lei asked with a sneer. That's right, let me go if you understand, otherwise. When Ma Rong heard Ting Ting's question, he thought Ting Ting was scared. Ha ha. Lei Lei immediately laughed when he heard what he said, then his expression suddenly changed, and he kicked Ma Rong down hard, making him lie directly on the ground, unable to move. At this moment, Ma Rong's face turned pale, and a faint shadow of death had enveloped him. Tell me, then you should know the news about Jar, right? Hearing this, Ma Rong was stunned. Jar, that woman. However, at the moment when he was silent, a huge force burst out from the foot he kicked on the back, shaking him violently. His body trembled instantly, he raised his head and looked at the angry face. He had no doubt that if he hesitated again, the other party would immediately kick his back. There was no hesitation at the moment, for fear that the other party would be impatient and attack him. He said hurriedly, his voice becoming sharp and sharp because of fear, Sir, I know. Then say it. Lei Lei smiled and his voice became more harmonious. But in Ma Rong's eyes, the smile on Lei Ting's face was as cold as hell, making him feel cold all over. My young master did all this. Because of fear, his whole body was trembling slightly, and his voice became sharp and hoarse at the same time. At this time, his face showed regret. If the young master hadn't been greedy for beauty, he wouldn't have ended up like this. The young master is greedy for beauty. As long as he likes it, he will. Seeing Lei Ting's face turn cold, Ma Rong suddenly said loudly, Sir, I'm just following orders. Where are they? Going home. The young master took people directly home. There are distinguished guests coming to the house today. The young master was named by the clan leader and asked him to be present. Therefore, the woman may be safe for the time being. When Lei Lei heard this, his eyes suddenly looked at Ma Rong sharply, and he felt relieved in his heart. Sir, please spare me, what I said is true. Ma Rong looked at Lei Lei with sharp eyes, his face became nervous, and he immediately begged for mercy, but Ma family. Lei Lei's eyes flashed with murderous intent, his face was as gloomy as water, and he clenched his fists tightly. Well, you dare to take advantage of Jar. The power of the foot on his back suddenly exploded, and Ma Rong's voice begging for mercy suddenly stopped, and his neck was broken by Thunder's kick. Congratulations to host, you killed the senior swordsman and gained 1000 experience points and 500 contribution points. On the side, seeing Lei Lei in a furious state, Yang Shui suddenly said, Thing Lei, don't be impulsive, think long-term. Lei Lei was about to rush to Shicheng, but he was stunned for a moment, turned around, looked at Yang Shui, and asked solemnly, do you know something about the Ma family? Staring closely at the eyes full of murderous intent, Yang Shui couldn't help but tremble in her heart, and said in a deep voice, our Yang family is negotiating a business cooperation with the Ma family in Shicheng, so we know some about the Ma family's situation. The Ma family is the dominant force in Shicheng and is not weak in strength. The head of the Ma family, Ma Ji, is a swordsman. Not only that, there are 5 or 6 elders at the level of great swordsmen. Their strength should not be underestimated. Speaking of this, Yang Shui's face flashed with solemnity. Thunder, please don't be impulsive. You can contact people in the family first and then take action to save people. No, there is no time to waste. Jar can't afford to wait. I have to rush over now. If I go later, she will be in more danger. Lei Lei refused without hesitation. Let's do this. I'll go to Ma's house to look for Jar first. You guys follow Feng Ning to the manor to ask for help, and then come to Shicheng's Ma's house to find me. After Lei Lei glanced at Feng Ning, he ran towards Yancheng without hesitation. Lei Lei, you must find Jar. Feng Ning looked at Lei Lei's running back and shouted. What should I do, mentor? Yang Shui asked solemnly. Although Lei Lei is powerful, he broke into the Ma family alone. If he is discovered, the consequences will be. Are you afraid? Suddenly, Lu Wu asked Yang Shui and the others. Teacher. Hearing Lu Wu's words, they were stunned for a moment and very puzzled, and then the 3 of them shook their heads at the same time. Teacher, we have even experienced death, so why should we be afraid? That's right, mentor, my life was saved by thunder, and I can't just let it go. That's right. Lu Wu took a deep breath and looked at the 3 of them with very pleased eyes. No one was timid. Then he said to the 3 of them with a look of relief on his face. Kai Ming, Lu Wu, take Feng Ning and rush to the manor to ask for help. Remember to hurry. Yes, mentor, we understand. Kai Ming and Lu Wu looked cautious. Yang Shui, you go to Xicheng with me first. If Lei Lei is in danger, you can take care of it. Okay, mentor. Then act separately. Yes. After half an hour of hard work, Lei Lei finally rushed into Xicheng. After passing through several streets with people coming and going, Lei Lei found the Ma family in the center of the city. It's quite strict. Looking at the towering wall, with guards constantly patrolling and defending, a look of solemnity flashed in his eyes. Through the small map, Lei Lei even noticed that a dozen little red men were hiding in the dark, blocking the place with no blind spots. If anyone lurked in without knowing what was going on, they would probably be caught on the spot. It's a bit troublesome, but it won't trouble me. Lei Lei smiled slightly and walked directly towards the door. His current identity is Ma Rong, and those vigilant guards did not stop him at all. Then Ma Rong really didn't tell lies. It seems that his status is indeed not low. After Lei Lei entered the gate, he glanced left and right, then hurried towards the hospital. Using the small map displayed in his mind, he kept observing the people around him, but he found no trace of Jar. As the search lasted longer, Lei Lei became more impatient and his face became gloomier. He searched most of the Ma family but found nothing. No one. Is it in the lobby? Lei Lei thought of what Ma Rong mentioned. The young master seemed to be accompanying the guests in the hall. Otherwise, take action directly, catch that bullshit young master and interrogate him directly. Lei Lei leaned against the wall, feeling very unwilling. The woman laughing around him suddenly appeared in his mind, and he said solemnly, no matter where you are, no matter how difficult it is, I will find you. If something really happened to Jar, he would definitely wipe out the Ma family with blood. At this moment, a voice sounded behind him. Ha ha, Ma Rong, it is indeed your boy. Has that person been caught? Lei Ting's figure was stunned for a moment, and then he quickly reacted, looked up, with a smile on his lips, and said slowly, hey, I accidentally killed the boy, and now I don't know how to explain it to the young master. It's okay, you and I are both capable members of the family, there's nothing to worry about. Looking at the person in front of him, Lei Lei suddenly felt secretly happy that he had actually met someone who knew about it, and immediately asked, why didn't you see the young master with you? Ha ha, the young master is in the hall with the clan leader to receive distinguished guests. Didn't I come over to help the young master get his clothes? But, in all my life, I have never seen such a beautiful woman. After hearing this, I suddenly felt happy when I heard this person mention the hall. At the same time, Lei Lei's expression immediately became like that of Brother Zhu, and he asked maliciously, she is indeed beautiful, but I don't know if she has taken it orally. Then he looked at the man expectantly and asked, where is that woman being kept by the young master? Ma Rong, do you think so? The man winked directly at Lei Lei. What are you thinking about? I just want to see. Ha ha, I'm afraid you're out of luck, you're not in the yard at all. What, did you bring it directly to the hall? Lei Lei looked confused. Ha ha, how do I know? The man laughed and said immediately, okay, I'm going to the lobby. After saying that, he turned around and prepared to leave. Lei Lei looked at him who turned around, a flash of fierceness flashed in his eyes, his right hand quickly reached out, and his strange power exploded. With a click, the man fell to the ground and died. I am afraid that the man did not understand how he died until his death. Lei Lei picked him up, hit him, and then quickly formed seals with his hands. Transformation. She instantly transformed into that person's appearance, then picked up the clothes in his arms and walked towards the largest building. In Ma's house, there were several figures sitting in a dimly lit room. Chinger, how are things going? The middle-aged man sitting in the first place suddenly opened his eyes, looked at the young man standing beside him, and asked in a deep voice. Father, don't worry, the matter has been taken care of. At the same time, the person has been arranged to a nearby courtyard so that no one can discover it. The young man standing at the bottom said hurriedly, but there was a look of regret on his face. Thinking of that woman's beautiful face, an evil thought flashed through my heart. Look at your regretful look. The middle-aged man sitting in the first place suddenly looked at the young man with stern eyes, and said coldly, that is the woman that our Ma family dedicated to the eldest master. If you dare to touch that woman, I will not destroy you. Yes, father. When the young man heard his father's warning, his body couldn't help but tremble, but there was still a hint of unwillingness in his eyes. Hee. As long as we hook up with the big master, our Ma family will be able to take advantage of the situation. The 4 major families in the empire will become the 5 major families. Flashed on the middle-aged man's face with a touch of excitement, he said slowly. Patriarch, I think it's not just that, even the royal family of the empire will be a little afraid of it. By then, we will not be able to walk sideways in the empire. That's right, Chinger, don't worry, as long as you can get the support of the eldest master, you will not be able to choose from those wealthy nobles. I heard that the eldest lady of the Yang family is also a woman as beautiful as a fairy. Chinger, it won't be you then. Quote. Ha ha. Several people sitting there laughed, as if they had everything under control. Chinger, have you caught the young man who ran away? The middle-aged man suddenly asked as if he remembered something. Father, Ma Rong has already led a team to chase him. With his strength, there should be no problem. The young man replied immediately. Yeah, the middle-aged man nodded slowly, then thought of something, and immediately said, remember, if you catch the secret, kill it. Don't let the news leak out. Don't leave anything behind before you climb up to the big master. Telltale. A cold voice slowly sounded in the room. Yes, everything is for the Ma family. Let's go, today's guests are already arriving, don't keep them waiting. Yes, several people responded respectfully, then stood up and slowly followed the middle-aged man out of the room. HMPH. Yang family, just wait, my Ma family's advantage is not so easy to take advantage of. The Ma family hall was very lively, and all the famous people in Xicheng were here. Sitting at the head of the hall was the middle-aged man, Ma Ji, the head of the Ma family. He squinted his eyes slightly and kept clasping his fists and saluting the guests coming and going below. He seemed to enjoy the enviable gaze. Head of the Wu family, Wu Xing is here. Hearing this name, Ma Ji was stunned for a moment, and then a smile appeared on his face. The Wu family is also the dominant tyrant in Xicheng, and its power is almost equal to that of the Ma family. There is more competition between the 2 families. Although it is not incompatible, it is not far behind. According to normal circumstances, the Wu family not only did not cause trouble for him, but even came to congratulate him. This was obviously beyond his expectation. The Wu family seemed to be bowing to him. Haha, it's such an honor to welcome Patriarch Wu. Ma Ji immediately stepped forward and laughed. Haha, congratulations to the Ma family for getting involved with the Yang family. From now on, the Ma family will not be a source of money, but they will have to rely on the Ma family for support in Xicheng. A middle-aged man with a dignified appearance said to Ma Ji accompanied with a smile. Hee, it's easy to talk, it's easy to talk. Xicheng can't leave the Wu family no matter what. Hearing this, Ma Ji's smile became thicker and thicker, and his face was full of pride. This is the advantage of climbing to a high branch. Former competitors will bow their heads when told to do so. The Yang family of the Imperial Marquis Mansion, Second Master Yang has arrived. After hearing this announcement, everyone in the hall was in an uproar, and even looked enviously. They got the news that the person who came today was an important steward of the Yang family. They did not expect that it was the Second Master Yang who came in person. This is the second in command of the Yang family. This Ma family is about to soar into the sky. Ma Ji became even more proud and walked quickly towards the gate. Haha, I didn't expect that the second master would come here in person today. It really surprises me. Ma Ji looked at the majestic middle-aged man in front of him, stepped forward and said affectionately and respectfully. Clan Chief Ma is so polite. The cooperation with the Ma family is also a blessing to the Yang family. Second Master Yang said with a smile, and glanced around the hall. Unexpectedly, almost all the important people in Xicheng were here. It seems that the Ma family should not be underestimated. It's actually Mr. Yang who is here. No wonder the Ma family wants to hold such a big celebration. This Xicheng's innocence is really going to change. Only Wu Xing's face was the most ugly among the people here. He sighed helplessly in his heart and his mouth was full of bitterness. It seemed that the Wu family would have to look at the Ma family's face in the future. Thank you, Mr. Yang. Everyone, please. Ma Ji thanked Mr. Yang, then turned around and personally led the way, leading Mr. Yang to the top position. After Mr. Yang sat down, he sat next to Mr. Yang and kept talking to him. With the arrival of Mr. Yang, the atmosphere in the hall became more lively. The two figures also slowly walked into the hall, their eyes scanning the crowd in the hall. No, there's no jar here either. Lei Lei's face was ugly, and without any cover-up, the man transformed by Shadow Clone was brought into the hall. He has searched around the hall but can't find it, and it doesn't even show on the mini-map. Now the only hope in the hall has been shattered. Lei Lei clenched his fists fiercely, staring at the little celebrities like a lion majesty. Well, the only way is to arrest them directly and question them. Then he looked directly at the center, where the core figure was. Why are you here now? Suddenly, Ma Qing's voice sounded next to Shadow Clone. Lei Lei turned around and looked over. A young man came over and looked at Shadow Clone with a gloomy expression. My young master's clothes are gone. Let me wait. If I am embarrassed in front of so many people, I have to make you look good. Master, that's him. Hearing this, a strong murderous intent flashed through Lei Lei's eyes, staring closely at this figure like a lion majesty. You haven't brought it to me yet, master. The man seemed to be indifferent to Shadow Clone, and his face turned even colder. If it weren't for the many guests in the hall, he might have taken action directly. What a young master. Now that you've delivered it to your door, you're welcome. Lei Lei sneered and walked over quickly. When he was close to Ma Qing, he suddenly got angry and kicked him under his feet. Aren't you afraid of losing face? I'll let you appear in front of so many people and make you lose all face. Thunder suddenly struck, and suddenly sounded in the hall, suddenly attracting all the eyes. Everyone's eyes were extremely shocked. Looking at Thunder and the people at Thunder's feet, there was an uproar. Who is this person? How dare you be so bold and dare to attack the Ma family's young master directly here? There's something good to watch. Everyone immediately exclaimed that it was so worth it, and they all looked up at Ma Ji. Ma Ji, who had been chatting and laughing just now looked extremely ugly, and his eyes were almost on fire as he stared at Lei Lei's figure. You're so brave, who are you? Ma Ji looked at Lei Lei coldly, and an almost roaring voice sounded in the hall. Ha ha, I'm not as courageous as him. Lei Lei said slowly, just looking up at Ma Ji's almost cannibalistic expression. Let me go, or I'll kill you. Ma Qing suddenly turned red with embarrassment when he heard everyone's mocking whispers, and struggled to get up. But no matter how he struggled, he was firmly suppressed by the huge force, and he suddenly became furious and threatened. Friend, today is the Ma family's celebration. If you have any questions, please wait until the celebration is over to discuss it, okay? Ma Ji saw that Ma Qing could not get rid of the man's shackles, his eyes became colder, and a murderous intention was slowly revealed. Ha ha, what do these things have to do with me? I just want one person, make friends, and I'll leave immediately. Lei Lei was indifferent to their words and just said calmly. Young master of the Ma family, where is the woman captured today? Hand it over immediately. What, you? I don't know what you are talking about, who are you? Ma Qing was acting stupid at this time. He also knew that this person was because of the woman, and he immediately pretended to be stupid. Tell me, where is the woman captured today? Seeing that he didn't speak, Lei Lei immediately increased his strength and kicked Ma Qing hard on the neck. Who the hell are you? Ma Ji's face also became serious, his eyes were fixed on Lei Lei, his murderous intent was high, he actually came for that woman, and he felt a huge wave in his heart. I came here just for one person, to hand over the woman I caught today, otherwise. Thunder said solemnly, death. The Ma family will not arrest people privately. Have you misunderstood? Misunderstanding. Hee hee. Lei Lei sneered and shot Ma Qing in the shoulder with his right hand. Poof. Blood splashed everywhere, and a blood hole suddenly appeared on Ma Qing's shoulder. Everyone in the hall immediately exclaimed, retreated, and distanced themselves. This was the beginning of a fight. Everyone's eyes became brighter and brighter. Second Master, do you want to leave temporarily? The people around Second Master Yang looked at the tense atmosphere and lowered their heads slightly and asked softly. No, just watch and tell our people not to interfere easily. The Ma family doesn't look that simple. Second Master Yang shook his head and said calmly. Yes, Second Master. And when Ma Ji looked at Ma Qing, who was howling heartbreakingly. An oppressive momentum burst out from his body, and the faces of everyone around him were suddenly shocked. Sword Master. Ma Ji actually broke through to the Sword Master. How is this possible? After several years of not taking action, Ma Ji actually achieved a breakthrough in strength. Wu Xing, the head of the Wu family, had a sudden change of expression and was extremely ugly. This is a piece of advice for you, you will be so lucky next time. Lei Lei said coldly, looking at the Ma family guards who were surrounding him. These Ma family guards looked at Lei Lei with fierce looks on their faces, ready to swarm up at any time, ready to chop the troublemaker into a pile of minced meat before they could release the bad breath in their hearts. Hand over jar, or the Ma family will be slaughtered with blood. Lei Lei ignored these people, but looked at the young master at his feet. His right hand slowly pointed at his head, and a drop of water quickly condensed on his fingertips. Father, father, save me. Ma Qing looked at the right hand pointing at his head again, his face suddenly changed, and he howled loudly. Ma Ji's face became even more gloomy. He absolutely could not hand over the woman, nor could he admit that it was the Ma family who did it, otherwise the Ma family would die in a very ugly way. His face struggled for a moment, and then when he looked at Ma Qing, his face instantly turned cold. For the Ma family, kill him. Yes. As Ma Ji's shout fell, the strong men of the Ma family around him shouted loudly, and more than a dozen guards immediately strangled towards Thunder. Court death. Lei Lei's expression became even colder, and without any hesitation, the power of his right hand exploded instantly. The way Ma Qing looked at his father was unbelievable. Then his head froze, his eyes slowly lost their luster, and he died. Qinger, I'm sorry, for the sake of the Ma family. Ma Ji looked at Ma Qing who had lost his life, and immediately wailed, and looked at Lei Lei with an even more ferocious look. Kill him for me. Amid Ma Ji's howling, the dozen or so sharp weapons were about to chop down Thunder's body, and the guards even showed cruel smiles. It seemed that in the next moment, Thunder would be splashed with blood. However, with the collision of sharp weapons, and in their shocked gazes, Lei Lei's figure mysteriously disappeared in front of them. I gave you a chance. Now that you have made your choice, then go and die. Lei Lei's figure appeared not far away, and his cold voice sent a chill through the hearts of everyone in the Dima family. Fire style. Great fireball technique. A huge fireball was instantly ejected by the Thunder, and quickly rushed towards the more than 10 guards who were still in a daze. Suddenly, several screams rang out in the hall, and several guards who were unable to dodge were directly swallowed by the fireball. Magic is fire magic. That man is actually a magician. There was a gasp of air in the hall, and people looked at Lei Lei in horror. Magicians are very rare in this world. Magicians who can almost control the elements in battle are more mysterious and noble in everyone's hearts. Moreover, there has not been a magician in the entire Stone City for nearly 100 years. Now I actually see magic here, which is an eye-opener. Magician, so what? Under the scorching flames, Ma Ji's figure instantly rushed towards Thunder, getting closer. Looking at the Thunder that was so close, a cruel smile appeared on his face. A magician in close combat poses no threat. Go to hell. The figure flashed in the air, and the terrifying fist containing fighting spirits slammed into Lei Lei. Snort. Lei Lei looked at Ma Ji's angry blow and at the same time stamped his foot. His figure exploded towards Ma Ji like a bullet being discharged. Strange power explodes. Roll. In Ma Ji's incredible gaze, Thunder struck them together with a fierce punch. Bang. Suddenly, his expression suddenly changed, and he felt as if he had been hit by a mountain, and the bones in his arm were about to break. At the same time, the huge repulsive force immediately caused him to spit out a mouthful of blood, and the figure flew out directly. Chapter 71. Bang. Bang. Ma Ji retreated in embarrassment, hitting countless tables and chairs before he stabilized his figure. His pale face was full of disbelief. In just one round, Ma Ji, a powerful swordsman, was defeated. This scene made everyone in the hall stunned. Then he looked at Lei Lei in even greater disbelief. What martial skill did he just use? That speed, that instant burst of terrifying power. How can a magician do this? Double cultivation of magic and martial arts. Oh my god, there are such weirdos. There was a sudden roar in the hall, and there was a lot of discussion, and the eyes looking at Lei Lei became even more eager. You. Wiping away the blood from the corner of his mouth, Maji heard everyone's discussion and looked at Lele in shock, with a bad premonition rising in his heart. Lele didn't care about the shock of others, he just looked at everyone in the Ma family coldly, as if waiting for their answer. Maji's eyes narrowed, and after a moment of struggle, some hoarse shouts sounded in the hall. People from the Ma family, let's kill this fool who dares to cause trouble in the Ma family. Yes, Patriarch. Everyone in the Ma family inside and outside the hall took a look. Although they were quite afraid of Lele's strength, they still couldn't help but yelled loudly, held their weapons, and killed towards Lele with a fierce look on their faces. Haha, if that's the case, don't blame me for the bloody massacre of the Ma family. Lele gave a cold shout, and his figure rushed out of the hall in an instant, and was in the empty square in front of the hall. At this time, more than 100 guards had gathered. When they saw Lele rushing out, they immediately grabbed their weapons and charged towards Lele. Snort. Lele looked at these guards. Not only did his galloping body not stop, his hands quickly formed seals. Fire style. Fire dragon flame bullet. As the last seal was completed, he looked coldly at the rushing guards, and a huge fire dragon sprayed out towards them. Magnificent fire suddenly erupted in front of the hall, with the heat that burned everything, and swept towards the guards in an instant. In an instant, the Ma family's mansion burst into flames. Boom! No! The fire dragon roared like a roar, devouring everything in front of it. The guards who came were unable to quickly avoid the fire dragon's devouring. They screamed in an instant and quickly lost their life under the scorching heat and fell down. Soon, the bursting flames lost the support of the thunder power and disappeared, but the open space in front of the hall was still surrounded by fire and was in a mess. Under the flames lay charred corpses. Congratulations to host, you killed 22 junior swordsmen and 6 intermediate swordsmen, and gained 1,200 experience points and 600 contribution points. With this blow, he gained temporary peace. The guards were obviously frightened by this terrifying magic. They stopped rushing forward and stared blankly at the tragic scene in front of them. At that moment, he swallowed involuntarily. These were the mainstays of the family, and they fell under the magic attack. So cruel. Everyone in the hall looked at Lele's figure with even more fear and admiration. This battle has exceeded their imagination. The Ma family seems to have really encountered a tough situation, killing so many guards in an instant, and there were many intermediate swordsmen among them. The Ma family may pay a heavy price. But that young man. Looking at the lonely figure in front of them, they sighed inwardly. They didn't think that Lele could leave here alive. And Ma Ji stood at the gate, looking at Lele with a ferocious face, a trace of resentment flashing in his eyes, and roared loudly, "Everyone in the Ma family, don't show mercy, kill this fool for me. Kill." As soon as the shouts ended, dozens of figures hidden on the roof suddenly appeared. They held crossbows and pointed at Thunder's figure, and pulled the trigger without hesitation. At that moment, dozens of arrows shot towards the thunder cover with cold light. "Haha, come on then." Lele sneered, looking at the arrows in the sky, without panicking or running away. Some women in the hall looked at the indifferent Lele and even exclaimed, as if they would be shot into a hedgehog in the next second. But Ma Ji grinned. He hid these crossbowmen to prepare for today's emergencies, but he didn't expect that they would be used. Under a sudden attack, even a great swordsman might die with hatred. "You little fool, go to hell." Looking at Lele, who seemed to be unresponsive, he said coldly. There were screams and laughter in front of the hall, but Lele was very calm and did not take it seriously. In that case, a flash of light flashed in his eyes, he moved his hands, forming seals instantly, and said indifferently, "Magnet style." What's the use of these arrows in front of magnet style? With the activation of magnet style, the arrows that shot towards him seemed to be under control and instantly stopped in front of Lele. What happened? How did he do it? Looking at the arrows that suddenly floated in front of Lele, a series of exclamations rang out. What happened before their eyes was beyond their common sense. It was undeniable that there were many ways to defend against these arrows. But it was visible and had means, but the thunder in front of him was completely broken, and these arrows stayed in front of him obediently. Yes, it is staying in the void. There was no blocking or falling, it just stayed in the void. What the hell? I roared silently in my heart. Lu Wu's reminder to him to try not to expose magnet style has been completely forgotten by him. No matter who comes after him, he has nothing to fear. Haha, if this is your hidden method. Lei Lei stretched out his fingers and touched the arrows in front of him, and sneered at Ma Ji, it's better not to show your shame anymore. Kill. With a roar of rage, these arrows shot towards the original path, faster and more accurately. Ah, no. At that moment, screams suddenly rang out. The guards holding crossbows had no time to react, and were killed by the arrows they shot. They died in a very aggrieved manner. Congratulations to host, you killed 36 trainee swordsmen and gained 360 experience points and 130 contribution points. In less than half a minute, the Ma family's guards suffered heavy casualties. Suddenly, everyone did not dare to express their anger and looked closely at Lei Lei. Looking at the crossbowman who died in such a strange way, even Mr. Yang took a breath of air. The strength and strange attack methods displayed by this young man really shocked him, and at the same time, the eyes he looked at him became more and more passionate. This young man is not simple. A solemn atmosphere enveloped the broad square in front of the hall. Lei Lei did not rush to take action, but looked at everyone in the Ma family coldly and said again, hand over jar, and I will spare your life. The guards of the Ma family have now arrived, and under the leadership of more than 10 senior swordsmen, they are gradually pressing towards him. Haha, you are very strong. Your methods are even more weird. I was wrong. Ma Ji and 6 old men came out at the same time. They were the highest fighting force of the Ma family. This force could almost move sideways in Xicheng, but now they only faced Lei Lei. Ma Ji looked at the indifferent Lei Lei coldly. But, after killing so many children of my Ma family, you still want to leave alive. Only your flesh and blood can calm the anger of my Ma family. Then, there was a loud shout, revenge. As Ma Ji finished speaking, the crowd suddenly became excited. Revenge, revenge, form up. The fearful and sluggish aura of the Ma family guards suddenly surged. They all looked at Thunder in front of them with red faces, wishing they could eat his flesh and drink his blood. With a loud roar, a large formation instantly formed. Ha ha, Lei Lei smiled and laughed heartily. He didn't know how many times he heard this sentence, but in the end they died. As Lei Lei's mocking smile sounded, the atmosphere of the scene instantly became solemn. Even the people watching stopped talking and looked forward. Although Thunder's strength was powerful, according to their perception, his true level was not higher than that of a swordsman, but almost equal to that of a great swordsman. Can such a person win? The atmosphere gradually became solemn, and only the footsteps of the Ma family guards, who slowly approached Lei Lei with their hateful eyes, could be heard on the field. Kill. Ma Ji looked at Lei Lei's figure getting closer and closer, and shouted suddenly. Kill. At the same moment, all the guards rushed up with the battle formation, holding weapons and heading towards Thunder. The bright weapons looked particularly cold in the sunlight, and the scene was filled with murderous intent. Lei Lei looked at the guards who were surrounding him, with a sneer on his lips. Feeling the surging power in his body, he put his hands together, and the ground in the void began to shake slowly. Immediately, pieces of sand and iron quickly appeared on the ground, and the black mass floated like feathers, appearing in everyone's sight, and everyone's eyes were stunned. This was the first time he used magnet style on such a large scale, and it consumed almost half of his mental energy. Not good. Ma Ji looked at the sudden change and thought to himself, his eyes dark and terrifying, and then he killed Lei Lei without hesitation. Looking at the dark mass, he wanted to interrupt Thunder. Only in this way, no matter what Thunder's methods were, he could divert the attack target. I won't let you succeed, fighting Chi slash. Without hesitation, he slashed towards Thunder. It's just that his speed is fast, but Thunder's speed is even faster. Looking at the gleaming weapon, hesitant and disbelieving eyes finally locked his eyes on Ma Ji, who was rushing over to kill him. A strong murderous intent suddenly appeared on Lei Lei's cold face, and he slowly said, it's too late. Slowly closing his hands, a seal was formed on them, and the sand and iron in the void suddenly started to churn slightly. Die. Magnet style. Sand-iron wave. As Lei Lei's words fell, a moment later, the sand and iron in the void swept down like ocean waves, sweeping forward with unstoppable power. Boom, boom, boom. Ma Ji's dookie slash was instantly intercepted by the wave of sand and iron, and it just caused a wave and disappeared. How is it possible? Ma Ji's face was ferocious, looking at the black wave that was more than 10 meters high and coming. The unstoppable power suddenly frightened him and made him feel cold at the same time. However, he did not give up. He was fierce in his heart and shouted at the people behind him, "Attack together. Break it open." Yes, more than a dozen people with the strength of senior swordsmen or above shouted at the same time, looking at the black wave with fear in their eyes, but they still launched attacks at the same time, hoping to break the black wave. Fighting slash. More than a dozen slashes, carrying terrifying destructive power, slashed towards the black wave. Bang! 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 Violent impacts continued, and the explosive force only caused a few large waves, but the black wave was still sweeping in unstoppably. How to resist? What can we do to resist this black wave? Looking at the useless attack, Ma Ji felt that his eyes were completely dark, and his heart instantly despaired. It's over. Looking at the unstoppable and extremely terrifying black wave, the faces of everyone in front of the hall became extremely exciting, with fear, excitement, and screaming all gathered together. They were completely stunned. From their perspective, the black wave sweeping down was like a furious ocean, which was an extremely spectacular scene. What kind of power is this? He stared at the black wave in front of him with wide eyes. This question makes people don't know how to answer it. He is a genius from some big power, and he is so terrifying. At the same time, some people exclaimed that he was obviously still a young man, but he had reached a point where they could not look up to him. Who else could train him except those big forces? This is the only explanation. But who did the Ma family offend? His words were recognized by most people. But Mr. Yang, who was standing at the front, did not speak, but trembled all over. Different from others, he was exposed to more things and had broader knowledge. Looking at the skills used by Lei Lei, the only thing he thought of was holy level. Advanced skills, he practices top-level skills. But the high-level skills were still within the scope of his understanding, and the use of Lei Lei was beyond the scope of high-level skills. He didn't say anything, but stared at Lei Lei. In a moment, he thought of many ways, such as catching, robbing, and even seducing, but in the end he only thought of making friends. You cannot offend such a person, you can only make friends with him. In an instant, Mr. Yang looked at everyone in the Ma family, and his eyes suddenly turned evil. Comparing a business partner with a saint-level powerhouse who was suspected of having practiced holy-level skills was simply an insult to his eyes. I never expected that I would meet such an amazing person in Shicheng. Run. Seeing that the attacks of the clan leader and others were ineffective, a guard with quick reactions could not care about the thunder in front. Without any hesitation, he turned around and ran away, while letting out a terrifying roar, "Run away!" And his reminder also attracted the attention of others. The senior swordsmen and elders were the first to retreat, and in the blink of an eye, only the guards who formed the formation were left. Run. The other guards also looked at the sweeping black wave. The powerful guards did not hesitate and used any means to escape quickly. Some even threw away their weapons in order to reduce the weight. Suddenly, there was a lot of crying and cursing. The guards of the Ma family, who had been so murderous just now only regretted that they were too far forward and had no time to escape, so they started to curse. A terrible crisis enveloped them at this moment, and the unprepared roar from behind enveloped the empty square in front of the hall. "No, help me!" One after another, the figures were quickly swallowed up by the black wave, and then were swept into the wave formed by the sand and iron. They were mercilessly squeezed and twisted by the sand and iron, and they suddenly let out shrill screams. The screams before death and calls for help almost rang out. "Congratulations, host." In his mind, the sound of 9 loudspeakers kept ringing. This was the reason why he dared to enter the Ma family alone. No matter how many people there were, they were all expendable in front of a large-scale ninjutsu. As long as they don't dodge in time, even high-level swordsmen and even great swordsmen will be obliterated by Sha Tai's attack. Thunder's body has been covered by a thick layer of sand iron, but now no one dares to look down upon these dust-like sand irons. Looking at the more than 40 people still standing on the field, there was a sharp contrast with the dark crowd before, and there was a sudden silence. A strong smell of blood spread through the sandy iron covering the ground, stimulating everyone's sense of taste. Some weak-willed people couldn't help but vomited. What a terrifying power! It was so tragic, it was simply a one-sided massacre. In front of the hall, everyone who came to participate in the celebration showed excited faces. After today, the Ma family may be doomed. Wu Xing, the head of the Wu family, was even more gloating about his misfortune, almost laughing. His eyes were fixed on that lonely figure. It was him, simply the savior of the Wu family. Not only that, other people's eyes also glanced at the figure, showing wonder and curiosity. No one thought that the Ma family would be destroyed in the hands of such a young man. More than 100 guards were easily strangled by him. Those guards were not ordinary cats and dogs, but hundreds of swordsmen who were powerful in Stone City. It's gone. Are you surprised? Are you scared? Lei Lei raised his head slightly, his eyes slowly swept through the crowd, and finally locked his eyes on Ma Ji and shouted. Ma Ji's blood-red eyes were wide open at this time, his face was ferocious, and he was breathing rapidly and staring at Lei Lei. The high-spirited side he had in the hall before was completely gone. Just distorted faces. No more, all gone. Looking at the corpses on the ground, the accumulation of several generations of the Ma family was destroyed in his hands. Of course he was afraid. I'm afraid I won't have the face to see my ancestors. The hope of the Ma family's rise was completely lost in his hands. Thinking of this, Ma Ji's eyes instantly became bloodshot, staring at that figure with blood-red eyes. It was this person who made all his plans disappear, and the Ma family was also destroyed. Thinking of this, Ma Ji's face turned ferocious, and he shouted at the figure in front of him, I want you to die. Kill, all elders, kill him together to avenge Ma Jarlang. Seeing the tragedy in Ma's family, his only thought now is to kill Lei Ting. Only if Lei Lei dies in the Ma family can the shame on the Ma family be washed away. Yes, master. These elders did not hesitate, their vindictiveness was rolling, and they were locked on thunder. Their figures were ready to attack at any time, but there was still a flash of solemnity and hesitation in their eyes. Ha ha, come on then. Lei Lei smiled strangely at them, and immediately shouted, kill. Then the figure was as fast as lightning, heading straight towards them. At the same time, as the thunderous killing sound fell, a figure from the Ma family also moved and rushed towards several elders. As he moved, he quickly formed seals with his hands, and the last seal was formed. In the doubts and disbelief eyes of everyone in the Ma family, Ma Ji noticed something unusual and immediately shouted, Ma Jun, what are you doing? But before Ma Ji could finish his words, the man rushed in front of the elders instantly. In the hesitant and shocked eyes of several elders, with a roar, 3 thunderballs formed in front of him. Lightning style, thunderball, explode. The suicide bomb was used again by Thunder's shadow clone, and it suddenly attacked with no time to dodge. This is a shadow clone that Lei Lei had buried before. At this time, Lei Lei got hints and chose to attack suddenly. Shadow clone's sudden attack also caught several elders off guard. They never thought that someone from their own family would attack them. Their attention was focused on the thunder until Ma Jun suddenly appeared in front of them. The thunder ball suddenly appeared and exploded, and then they reacted, but it was too late. Although the thunderball did not hit them, the burst of electricity instantly enveloped them. Unprepared, they immediately received a fatal blow. Zila. The burst of electricity instantly wrapped around them, paralyzing their bodies and temporarily losing their ability to move. Everyone in the Ma family was at a loss, and the silent anger in their hearts could not be expressed. Why did the Ma army suddenly attack the elders? Why is that? Why is this happening? But they didn't have enough time to be stunned, because thunder came to kill them. Lei Lei looked coldly at the elders who were paralyzed by the lightning. Take advantage of his illness and kill him. Quick, save the elder. Ma Ji was panicking at this time, looking at the elders who fell to the ground unable to move and lost the ability to move. If they all died, then the Ma family would really be doomed. Get out of my way. Without hesitation, the figure rushed towards Thunder like a cannonball. His purpose was very clear, to stop Thunder and buy time to rescue the elder. Ha ha, you'd better stop me. Looking at Ma Ji who was suddenly killed, he taunted in a low voice, those should be the elders of the Ma family. If they die, the Ma family will be completely finished. You little fool, go to hell. With a ferocious face, Ma Ji glared with blood-red eyes. He didn't care about Thunder's taunt at all, and struck hard with his right fist with terrifying power. Humph, you can only watch them die in front of you. Instant technique. Feeling the terrifying energy from the bombardment, Lei sneered, and his figure immediately disappeared in Ma Ji's blood-red eyes. What? Impossible. Feeling the energy fluctuations coming from behind, Ma Ji's expression changed again, and he shouted sharply, stop him quickly. It's too late. Let's all die. Thunder's appearance was so sudden that the Ma family who came to rescue the elder were stunned for a moment. Then, regardless of the elder's injury, they all picked him up and prepared to retreat quickly. The thunder was as fast as lightning and rushed straight up. His speed was already fast, but with the blessing of the primary immortal body, his speed became even more terrifying. These people had no time to react as Lei had already bullied them. Magnet style. Sand iron giant needle. As the hands completed the seal, sharp spears formed instantly, and then moved towards the area covered by the elders. Use ninjutsu to attack at close range, almost to the face. At such a close distance, they have no more reaction time, and they are even less able to avoid the coverage of the attack. No, the elders and the Ma family disciples who came for rescue did not react at all, and could only watch the dense spears coming toward them. Whoosh, whoosh, ah! Amidst the screams, more than a dozen figures were shot into the shape of hedgehogs, and they could not die anymore. Congratulations to host, you killed 4 great swordsmen and 6 intermediate swordsmen, and gained 8,300 experience points and 4,150 contribution points. Then, Thunder did not stop at all and rushed towards the Ma Ji guards again. Magnet style. Sandite Shigur. A large-scale attack appeared again, and countless thin needles made of sand and iron quickly enveloped the people in front. Hide quickly. Puff, puff. Soon some of them failed to dodge in time or broke through their defenses, and were hit by fine sand iron needles. They could only protect their important parts from being attacked, but the rest of their parts were covered in blood under the blows of the fine sand iron needles. Especially their legs, almost all of which had bloody holes made by the fine sand iron needles. The injuries to their legs immediately made it difficult for them to stand up, and some people kept falling down. These people fell to the ground struggling and howling. Fire style. Phoenix Sage Fire Technique. Lei looked at the struggling figures lying on the ground without any mercy. He completed the seal in an instant and spit out fireballs as big as millstones from his mouth. Boom, boom. Kill them one by one like a sniper rifle. Congratulations to host. You killed 3 intermediate swordsmen and 6 junior swordsmen, and gained 600 experience points and 300 contribution points. Go to hell. The cold light is overwhelming. At this time, Thunder's paws also gave him a chance, and someone came to kill him in an instant. Under the leadership of the last elder, he joined forces with 4 senior swordsmen to strangle him, immediately interrupting Thunder's ninjutsu. Lei secretly said a pity, kicked his feet, and quickly retreated. Then he held his right hand in the void, and a long sword appeared in his hand. Clang clang clang. Lei swung his sword quickly, and each sword was extremely accurate, blocking their attacks. Take 5 steps back in a row. Lei also steadied his figure at the same time, a cold light flashed in his eyes, and pointed his left hand at a senior swordsman, and the water droplets quickly condensed on the tip of his index finger. Water iron cannon technique. Before he could react, a drop of water shot through his head like a bullet. He didn't even utter a scream, but fell to the ground and died. This series of blows was completed in just a few breaths, and the senior swordsmen did not even react before they saw their companions fall down. Son of a fool, I'll fight you. The high-level swordsman who suddenly came over ignored the sword that was stabbed at him by the thunder and rushed over directly. It was so fierce that I pounced directly on it. With the courage to die. Poof. The cold sword pierced his chest directly, but he hugged Lei Ting's body tightly and shouted with blood in the corner of his mouth, "Kill him! Kill him!" Even Thunder was shocked by his actions. The Thunder was a little confused, it was such a familiar style of play. I have seen people riding horses risking their lives, but I have never seen anyone so desperate. Isn't this the way he beat Deacon Chen? This trick was actually used on him. Lousy only dares to play like that because he has a system in place. What about you? Nothing. The courage is commendable, but the final result is completely different. Is it worth it for you to do this? Lei's eyes flashed with admiration, but that was all. It's worth. Haha, it's totally worth killing you. Blood was flowing from the man's mouth, and he used his remaining strength to tightly bind Lei Lei. Kill me, kill, the elder shouted angrily when he saw the opportunity that the Ma family's children had fought so hard for. The other two senior swordsmen also reacted instantly in shock. This was the only opportunity to sacrifice themselves to win for them. How could they miss it? After roaring violently, they swung their swords towards Thunder. Fool guy. Lei Lei was hugged tightly and could not push him away for a moment, so he could only wave his sword to resist the attacks of these people. The four weapons collided together again, and scars finally appeared on his body. We can't go on like this, Lei Lei thought to himself, while quickly forming seals with his left hand. At this moment, Ma Ji's figure suddenly appeared, looked at Lei Lei coldly, and took action instantly. He appeared so suddenly, even Lei Lei didn't have time to react, and he was still carrying a burden, so he had no time to dodge. Without hesitation, Ma Ji stabbed towards Thunder quickly with his sword. His target was not Thunder's head, but directly stabbing at the body hugging the Ma family boy. This was the weakness of Thunder's defense. Poof! The long sword did not stop piercing the man, but also pierced Lei Lei without hesitation. Poof! Two people with one sword. Lei Lei suddenly felt a pain in his abdomen, and his eyes widened at the same time, as if he was very uncomfortable. He never thought that he would fall into the hands of a high-level swordsman. The scene seemed to be frozen. Don't want. Thunder. Ha ha. Finally we are better. Ma Ji's wild laughter and the shouts of Lu Wu and Yang Shui rang out at the same time. Lu Wu and Yang Shui also rushed to Ma's house at this time and looked at the scene in front of them in disbelief. Yang Shui couldn't help but shed tears. She looked closely at Lei Lei's seemingly uncomfortable face and suddenly became furious. I'm going to kill you. As soon as he finished speaking, he started to kill them with his sword. Lu Wu looked at Yang Shui's sudden attack and had no time to stop him, so he killed him with a calm expression. Ha, here are two more people looking for death. Ma Ji's eyes were extremely cold, and he repeatedly thought that the Ma family was a bunch of people, and anyone could come and bully them. Suddenly he was furious and said, kill them. Yes. In front of the hall door, everyone looked at the scene on the field with regret. They were about to see a genius fall. The genius boy was finally defeated by the Ma family's attack. Regardless of the means, they succeeded. It's a pity that such a talented and beautiful person is about to die. A young man next to Mr. Yang sighed in a low voice, looking at Thunder in his eyes, full of pity. Yang Yi, look good, that boy is not as simple as you think. Second Master Yang just said lightly. Second Master, could it be that? Hearing this, Yang Yi seemed to be unable to believe it and looked at Lei Lei. However, at this moment, he was startled by a figure that suddenly appeared. Second Master, seems to be the eldest lady. Well, the second master just nodded, but was indifferent. The eldest lady seems to know that young man. Yang Yi frowned. It seemed that the changes on the field were too fast, leaving him no time to think about it. He hurriedly said, no, the lady is attacking Ma Ji. Want to stop it? No need, just watch. Second Master Yang had no intention of taking action. But, don't worry, we're here. Hearing these words, Yang Yi didn't say anything, but stared at Yang Shui closely. At the same time, the fighting spirit in his body started to circulate, and he was prepared to take action at any time. Ha ha, you have to be self-aware. I admit that you are very strong, but, so what? Ma Ji looked at Lei Lei and said in a low voice. He glanced at the Ma family kid who was hugging Lei Ting tightly. That was his nephew, but he died in his hands. Ma Ji's heart felt cramped. We have children of the Ma family who are not afraid of death. They die well, all for the continuation of the Ma family. They will also die with you. Ma Ji pointed at Yang Shui and Lu Wu, who were facing the siege of the Ma family guards. Go to hell. After saying that, Ma Ji swung his sword towards Lei Lei without hesitation. Exclamation mark. Hee hee. If it were someone else, you might really succeed, but... Lei Lei looked at Ma Ji who was attacking him, shouted loudly, and pushed away the person who was restraining him in Ma Ji's shocked eyes. Lei Lei admired this man's courage very much, but that was all. But, you are facing me. When, Lei Ming's right hand suddenly swung his sword to meet him. With a clang, the two swords collided fiercely. Impossible. Ma Ji looked at Lei Lei, who acted like nothing happened and easily intercepted his slashing attack. His eyes widened and he roared angrily. His fighting spirit surged out and he slashed towards Lei Lei again. Die to me. Haha. What's impossible? Lei Lei smiled even brighter at Ma Ji's suddenly changed face, and sneered, you don't have the strength to keep me here. After Lei Ting's words fell, the seal prepared by his left hand was completed. Instant technique. Thunder's figure disappeared in Ma Ji's eyes in an instant, and his fierce blow immediately cut into the air. When he appeared, he was already not far away from them. Lei Lei broke away from Ma Ji's entanglement and at the same time looked at Lu Wu and Yang Shui. Under siege by everyone in the Ma family, the two of them could only hold on and barely protect themselves. At the same time, a figure sneaked towards Yang Shui. A cold light flashed in his eyes, and the figure quickly became murderous. At the same time, his left hand also formed a seal. Yang Shui kicked away the attacker. Before she could stabilize her body, a black shadow struck at her from the side. Take advantage of others' danger. Yang Shui yelled angrily, bursting out with fighting spirit in an instant, turning sideways to fight, but the sharp blade had already hit her directly. Haha, he looked so graceful. It would be a pity to die here like this. The man looked at Yang Shui's angry face and showed a lustful smile. This was the first time he had seen such a beautiful woman. The thought of killing such a beautiful woman suddenly made him excited. HMPH, looking for death, but he was happy too early. Thunder's figure instantly appeared in front of him, and a cold voice sounded in the man's ears at the same time. You're not. The man looked at the suddenly appearing figure as if he had seen a ghost. Hee, you guys also want to kill me? Thunder didn't wait for his reaction, and its terrifying fist struck him hard. Strange power. The sudden burst of power immediately caused his chest to dent, and at the same time, his body flew out involuntarily and hit the ground heavily. Poof. A mouthful of blood spurted out violently, and he looked at Thunder with wide eyes, as if he was very surprised by Thunder's appearance. Then, after struggling for a few times, he slowly fell down, lifeless. Congratulations to host, you killed the senior swordsman and gained 1000 experience points and 500 contribution points. Senior, are you okay? After a successful blow, Lei Lei, who was temporarily relieved of the crisis, looked at Yang Shui and immediately spoke. You, Thunder. Looking at the figure who suddenly appeared to save her, Yang Shui showed an incredulous look. He was not. Thinking of this, a pair of beautiful eyes immediately started to take care of themselves, showing a worried look at the same time. Lei Lei looked at Yang Shui's concerned eyes, thought of her worries, and immediately smiled and said, it's okay, it's just a minor injury. Whoosh. Lu Wu's figure rushed over, his already gloomy face revealed a smile after seeing Thunder. Haha, I knew you wouldn't die easily. Then he patted Lei Lei on the shoulder and said with a happy face, you almost scared us to death. I made you worry. It's just a minor problem. Don't worry. Lei Lei nodded lightly, very grateful for their arrival. Then he looked forward and said in a low voice, leave the rest to me. While they were talking, the remaining members of the Ma family also surrounded them. How is it possible that you are okay? Ma Ji looked at Lei Lei with great regret. The opportunity just now was wasted. Looking at the body in front of Lei Lei, his face suddenly became ugly. The rest of the Ma family looked at Lei Lei and exclaimed, especially when they saw Lei Lei acting like nothing was wrong, their jaws dropped. What's going on? Wasn't he severely injured by the head of the family? How can he still move freely? Everyone in the Ma family couldn't help but look at Ma Ji. Ma Ji's face turned even red. At this time, he also realized something was wrong. The Thunder in front of him seemed to be fine, not weak or about to die. It's so lively. If he saw it correctly, the bleeding wound in the abdomen seemed to be slowly healing. Impossible. Ma Ji looked at Lei Lei's appearance, and the fact before him gave him a heavy blow, and he roared, fake. This is fake. Can't you believe what you're seeing? Lei Ting wiped the wound on his abdomen, and the wound was blood red. Although it had not healed yet, it had begun to stop bleeding. After looking at the system attributes, the blood value was 275 points, and it was recovering at 1 point per minute, while the mental value was recovering at 5 points per minute. It seems that the system recovers very slowly, but it allows him to continue fighting for a long time. This is just the body of a primary immortal. You. Ma Ji's face became extremely ugly, and he became more and more frightened by Lei Ting's methods. He looked at Lei Ting with a very frightened and ferocious look. Who the hell are you? It doesn't matter who I am anymore. Lei said calmly. You touched people you shouldn't touch and provoked people you shouldn't mess with. Keep talking. Lei stared at Ma Ji and showed a smile. My wounds will be healed. Ha ha. Lei's mocking laughter suddenly made Ma Ji's face look extremely ugly. At the same time, the thunder suddenly moved and disappeared from Ma Ji's eyes again. Kill. Loud and murderous voices echoed in the ears of everyone in the Ma family. They all looked frightened for a moment, and their bodies trembled involuntarily. I won't fight, I don't want to die. He started to cry tremblingly, dropped the long sword in his hand, turned around and ran away, but HMPH. If we don't hand over Jar today, none of you can escape. Water iron cannon technique. After Lei's cold words fell, a bullet-like drop of water shot through his head in an instant, and the splash of blood stimulated everyone in the Ma family even more. I don't believe that you consume so much and still have such strong strength. Ma Ji saw a man fall down without even meeting him. His face was ferocious, the fighting spirit in his body suddenly exploded, and the long sword in his hand quickly slashed towards the thunder. Splitting wind sword. Ma Ji slashed out with his sword, and the air made a harsh sound of explosions, followed by a whirlwind of fighting spirits slashing towards Lei. Go to hell, Ma Ji subconsciously murmured as he looked at the fighting spirit heading towards thunder. He wants to kill Lei Ting so much now, otherwise the Ma family will really be bloodbathed. This is a result that he cannot bear no matter what. This blow is already his strongest move. With level 5 martial arts, countless people have fallen to this blow. The whirlwind-like fighting spirit can cut through everything, even weapons. Haha, then let you despair. Looking at the fierce fighting spirit coming, Lei laughed. He had many ways to avoid it, but he did not choose this way. Instead, he put his hands together and activated the magnet style instantly. He wanted to make Ma Ji feel the ruthless blow in the final despair. Magnet style. Sand iron cuboid. In the void, countless sand irons instantly condensed into a huge sand iron cuboid, which smashed towards the hurricane fighting spirit. Boom. When the two collided, sand and iron flew suddenly, and pieces of sand and iron continued to fall. Call. Ma Ji took a look and showed a smile. But just a moment later, Ma Ji's eyes widened and his expression was horrified. The sand iron cuboid was rapidly repaired under the attack of the whirlwind fighting spirit, and the cracked lines continued to heal and disappear. Impossible. A moment later, the whirlwind fighting energy exploded violently under the impact of the sand iron cuboid, only making a hole in the sand iron cuboid. The sand iron cuboid hit Ma Ji as if nothing was wrong. Looking at the sand iron cuboid like a mountain, Ma Ji's face alternated between unwillingness and fear, but he did not dare to resist the impact of the sand iron cuboid and quickly dodged. Boom. The soil was flying, and the ground was shaking. Ma Ji dodged the attack of the sand iron cuboid in embarrassment. He was still frightened. If he was hit, it wouldn't be. What the hell kind of technique is this, and how does he manipulate these sandy irons? He could no longer care so much, and the sand iron cuboid smashed over again. Boom. Looking at Ma Ji who had escaped again, the swordsman's speed was still very fast. Thunder's eyes turned to the rest of the Ma family. In that case, let's make you even more desperate. Magnet style. Sunatetsu no Tsubasa. The sand iron cuboid decomposed instantly, forming a huge sand iron wing behind Thunder. As the wings behind him shook, under the shocked eyes of everyone, Thunder flew into the air like a rock. Go to hell. Lei looked at the panicked people below. The wings behind his back shook rapidly, and the dense sand iron feathers launched an attack on the people below. Whoosh, whoosh. The attack speed of sand iron feathers is very fast, and there are many of them. Below, the Ma family guards were constantly being hit by sand iron feathers and screaming. Ah, ah, but the thunder did not stop after striking once. Instead, it was like a bomber, bombing back and forth at the people below. Master, help, I was shot, ah. These things can actually be tracked. I can't hide from them. Following a burst of shouts and curses, one after another figures were hit by sand iron feathers. As long as they were not in fatal positions, they basically did not lose their lives. But as the iron sand invaded the body, something even more frightening happened, and the body gradually lost control and became paralyzed. I can't move. Following the screams, more and more people were unable to move, and figures kept falling to the ground and struggling. Shouts of fear and angry curses continued to sound. Ma Ji looked at the remaining Ma family children falling down one by one and struggling, and his heart suddenly became cramped. This was the Ma family's last hope, and his whole body was trembling with anger. Little fool, get down here. Ma Ji gritted his teeth and shouted angrily, and slashed his sword towards the thunder in the air again. Splitting wind sword. No surprise, his attack was easily dodged, and thunder could not be touched at all. Lei Lei sneered at him and shouted, "Ha ha, watching them fall down one by one, isn't it painful? Next, you will be in even more pain and can only watch them die. And there's nothing you can do." After Lei Ting's words fell, Ma Ji suddenly became frightened and shouted, "No. As long as the Ma family is released, I will hand over." At this time, he wanted to compromise. He couldn't watch the Ma family completely disappear, but the thunder didn't give him a chance at all. His bright eyes looked closely at the Ma family guards who were struggling on the ground, as if he didn't hear Ma Ji's last roar. Then, his body dived towards the ground like a rock. Fire style, Phoenix Sage fire technique. Boom, boom, boom. Fireballs the size of millstones were like cannonballs, bombing towards those figures. Suddenly, the sound of flame explosions and screams sounded at the same time. "Ah, I don't want to die, save me, Patriarch. Ah, don't come over. No, these have been hit by sand iron feathers. Although the sand iron soaked into their bodies is not fatal, it also paralyzes them and makes them unable to move. They can only watch the thunder swooping down on them and killing them." Ma Ji watched his children being named and died tragically in front of him one by the fireballs. His frightened face suddenly became filled with anger, and his figure instantly rushed towards the fireballs. Bang, bang. The fireballs that came down from the attack were continuously chopped back and forth by him, blocking the ruthless blast from thunder. Elder, save people. Yes, the only people who can stand now are him and the last elder. At this time, although the elder looked frightened, he still rushed forward without hesitation. Because the person lying there also has his descendants. Based on this, he cannot just sit back and watch. Hee, can you block all attacks? After thunder spewed out the last fireball, he glanced at the continuously breaking fireballs, sneered, and quickly formed seals with his hands. At the same time, his eyes were firmly locked on the elder. Then let's see if you can catch this fire dragon. As soon as he finished speaking, Lei Lei swooped towards the elder. Wasn't he trying to catch the fireball? Then I'll give you a bigger one. Fire style, fire dragon flame bullet. The thunder was like a violent fire dragon, exuding a frightening ferocious momentum. A terrifying fire dragon spurted out instantly and devoured the elder below. Boom! Under the attack of the more violent flames, the soil splashed and the fire shot into the sky. Rumble! The bursting flames roared like thunder, and the sweeping flames swept everything around. The elder with frightened eyes immediately retreated, or even fled in panic. He originally thought that the thunder would still use fireballs to attack. Looking at the thunder swooping towards him, he did not dodge, and even wanted to find an opportunity to knock him down. But he was totally wrong. Thunder swooped down and launched an attack on him, but is this a fireball? Looking at the violent flames bombarding him, the elder suddenly broke out in a cold sweat under the scorching heat. Young people, don't talk about martial ethics. Now he could no longer care about the person lying on the ground. He turned around without any hesitation, his fighting spirit exploded, his feet quickly exerted force, and he rushed out of the fire dragon's range. However, he was still wrong. The thunderous fire dragon seems to be endless, as if it is continuous. How can such magic be possible? This elder seems to be going crazy. Speed up. Speed up. Inspire fighting spirit to jump quickly. Move at high speed. Hide and hide. But he couldn't avoid thunder's blow no matter what. The elder seemed to collapse, crying and yelling at thunder, "Please, don't come." But Lei Lei didn't seem to hear it. Looking at the roaring elder below, his eyes brightened. Then the fire dragon bombarded the elder, and the erupting fire dragon immediately devoured him. The moment of delay gave him no time to react. The figure he was avoiding was immediately hit by the power of the fire dragon bombarding the ground. The figure flew out as if it had been violently hit. The figure drew a straight line in the air, hit the ground heavily, and struggled to get up. However, thunder didn't give him a chance at all, and the violent fire dragon swallowed him up instantly. Boom! Ah! No! The elder's desperate screams came from the flames. The unbelievable aerial attack stopped, and the entire ground in front of the hall was turned over. Under the scorching heat, even part of the ground was directly melted, and it was scorching. Lei Lei exhaled a long breath, and the continuous fire dragon flame bombs consumed too much mental value. 200 points were consumed in a short period of time. However, it's worth it if you can kill the great swordsman. Congratulations to host, you killed the great swordsman and gained 2000 experience points and 1000 contribution points. Congratulations host, upgraded to special Jonin. Upgraded. The sound of 9 trumpets sounded in his mind, and Lei Lei was immediately overjoyed. After the upgrade, his physical fitness, including speed, strength, etc., would be improved in all aspects. Special Jonin, that is, sword master level, can be killed easily. Haha, it's worth it, it's so worth it. Lei Lei couldn't help laughing, and his bright eyes also looked at Ma Ji. The first kill for a swordsman level figure. In front of the hall, the sky was full of fire, the roar of flames and screams were constantly intertwined, and the hot air waves made them extremely uncomfortable, but they did not say anything. Instead, they looked at the young man performing alone with wide eyes. They were completely numb now. Listening to the unwilling screams coming from below, his face couldn't help twitching, and his heels couldn't help trembling. Isn't that boy too scary? The Ma family is really doomed and there is no hope. This is their only idea, the only remaining strength. Under such a blow, a few can survive. Really cruel, a family will be destroyed in his hands. The strength is so strong that even the swordsman may be powerless against him. And he's still so young. His future achievements may be. Everyone looked at each other, and their hearts were already filled with passion. After today, the young man's fame will surely spread throughout the entire empire. Genius boy, no, evil boy. And they will become witnesses of young people's growth. Kill the Ma family and give back my sister. At this time, there was another killing cry outside Ma's house. Before anyone arrived, Feng Ning's voice came over, and then more than 30 figures came in menacingly. The leader was Feng Ning, followed by Kai Ming and Lu Wu. The people following them were the Feng family swordsman team. There were a total of 30 people, all of whom were intermediate swordsmen with the lowest strength, led by 2 great swordsmen and 4 senior swordsmen. However, he came in angrily and was stunned when he saw the miserable situation in front of the square. There were corpses on the ground, and then a figure swooped down from the sky and spit out a stream of flames towards the ground. This visual effect kept impacting them. What the hell? Warcraft. Feng Ning was dumbfounded. Did he enter the wrong door? As soon as such an idea came to mind, he saw the figures of Lu Wu and Yang Shui and rushed over. What happened here? Where is that guy from Thunder? Feng Ning asked hurriedly. Lu Wu and Yang Shui suddenly smiled bitterly. Yang Shui pointed at the figure flying in the sky and said, "Then, that is Thunder." What? Feng Ning looked in the direction pointed by Yang Shui. The pair of huge wings looked like those possessed by flying monsters. He was stunned for a moment and shouted urgently, "Thunder has turned into a monster." What are you saying to make you turn into a monster? Thunder in the air noticed that Feng Ning and the others were coming, so he landed. The ground there had been rotated by him with fire style, and there were almost no living creatures, so he stopped. The figure slowly descended and stopped in front of Feng Ning. Wow, it's really you. You are a bird person. No, these wings can actually fly. As he said that, Feng Ning couldn't help but reach out and touch it. No one could tempt the ability to fly, and even under such circumstances, he couldn't bear it. But before he touched it, the huge sand iron wings were lifted by the thunder. The sand iron wings, which lost their support, quickly disintegrated and flowed to the ground like sand. Feng Ning, arrange for someone to find Jar. Lei Lei ignored Feng Ning, who looked regretful, but said to him with a serious face. What? The little sister wasn't rescued? Feng Ning was stunned and said in disbelief. No, I searched the whole Ma family and couldn't find it. Lei Lei's face turned ugly. Those fools from the Ma family are very stubborn, and they won't say anything even if they are washed in blood. You did this all by yourself. Feng Ning looked at Lei Lei in disbelief. How many corpses were in front of him that had become charred? They were so densely packed in his eyes that they were almost countless. This was too fierce. I thought Lei Lei came over just for show, but I didn't expect that the Ma family was actually blood-bathed. Looking at the tragic situation ahead, the fight was so intense, and my sister hasn't been rescued yet, this Ma family must be too upright. Okay, I'll make the arrangements. Feng Ning didn't say much, but looked at Lei Lei in shock, then turned around and made arrangements for the people behind him with a serious face. In a moment, these people divided into teams of 5 and dispersed around, while Feng Ning stayed. In front of the hall, everyone looked dumbfounded at the group of people who came to kill them again. The Ma family offended that god tier, one after another, endlessly. Second master, that's the boy from the Feng family. Why is he here? Yang Yi said with a frown. As a confidant of the second master, he certainly kept the geniuses of several big families in mind. However, for a person like Lei Lei, he just got to know him briefly and sealed it away. No one would pay attention to a waste, and the same was true for him. Lei Ming of the Lei family, Feng Ning of the Feng family, and Li Shaoran of the Li family, these geniuses, who will be the absolute pillars of the future families, he has firmly remembered, and he can recognize them at a glance whenever they show up. Things are getting more and more interesting. The jar in that person's mouth is not related to the Feng family, right? Second Master Yang just shook his head and said calmly, of course they will not interfere in what these juniors do. This is also a kind of experience for them. This is why he was not in a hurry to take action after Yang Shui appeared. Now that the overall situation is almost decided, Ma Ji is the only one left, and he will not take action anymore. Jar, is it Feng Jiaqi? When Yang Yi heard the second master's words and thought of this, his face immediately became serious, and he whispered to the second master, maybe it's really for Miss Feng's sake. The Ma family is really brave. They should arrest Feng Jiaqi. Come on. Then Jar is undoubtedly Feng Jiaqi. Oh, Mr. Yang was just talking. He didn't expect it to be true. Then, his bright eyes looked at Lei Lei. He must have something to do with the Feng family. When did the Feng family have such a person? Yang Yi, check this person. I want to know his details. Yes, Ma Ji looked at Lei Lei and the people behind him with hateful eyes. At this time, he was the only one left in the Ma family standing here alone, which was in sharp contrast to before. They're all dead. Ha ha, they're all dead. Ma Ji's eyes were red, and he laughed wildly with bitterness in his voice. The Ma family was completely finished, and his dream of becoming a wealthy family disappeared at this moment. In his eyes, there was only the figure in front of him, who had destroyed everything about him. You little fool, even if I risk my life, I will tear you into pieces. Ma Ji smiled ferociously, gritted his teeth, violent fighting spirit surged out, and stared at Lei Lei viciously. At this moment, he just wanted to kill Thunder. Hee, do you have what it takes? Lei Lei laughed. His strength had greatly increased now, so what if he was a swordsman? He started mocking him. Little fool. A pair of red eyes stared at Thunder, holding a long sword in his backhand, and the aura in his body continued to rise violently. Suddenly, Ma Ji suddenly jumped up and headed towards Thunder to kill him. Lei Lei had no fear. The moment he moved, he also moved at the same time, and his speed was as fast as lightning. Whoosh! Both of them were not slow. They moved quickly to get close to each other, and the sword light suddenly appeared. The two of them got close and drew their swords with all their strength. Thunder's level has increased, his strength and skills have become more advanced, and Ma Ji has become more experienced. The two weapons suddenly collided together, and the terrifying power that erupted swept around. Little fool, why are you so heartless? Why don't you let the Ma family go? Ma Ji roared with a ferocious look on his face as the two of them were so close for the first time. Your Ma family asked for this. Lei Lei whispered, his cold voice ringing in Ma Ji's ears. Ha ha, none of this matters anymore. Either you die or I die today. Ma Ji grinned. Yes, it's not important anymore, but the one who dies must be you. Lei Lei's eyes were cold, and as soon as he finished speaking, the power in his hand exploded instantly. Strange power. The terrifying power instantly suppressed Maji, and the stalemate was immediately broken. Ah! The sudden burst of power from the thunder caught Maji off guard. He couldn't resist it and pressed directly on his shoulder. Poof! At the same time, Maji quickly retreated regardless of the long sword on his shoulder, and his flesh and blood immediately rolled. Lei, on the other hand, took advantage of the victory and rushed forward quickly. At the same time, he had already completed the seal with his left hand. Fire style. Great fireball technique. The raging fireball engulfed Maji. Splitting wind sword. The huge force instantly cut the fireball in half, and the fireball exploded with a loud bang. However, before Maji had time to rejoice, another fireball burst out of the flames and bombarded him. What kind of magician is this? Maji frantically dodged and did not try to catch the fireball bombardment. But the thunder kept approaching him, and at the same time, fireballs continued to spray out, bombarding Maji. Boom, boom. Maji kept dodging. You must know that no matter whether it is a swordsman or a swordsman, no matter whether he has fighting spirit to protect his body, it is difficult to resist the attack of magic. The human body cannot withstand high temperature burning. So Maji didn't want to hit him hard, so he could only dodge quickly. But now under the bombardment of thunder ninjutsu, he didn't even have time to fight back. Maji is now in a very embarrassed state, just like the elder. After losing the initiative, he was repeatedly suppressed and beaten by thunder with ninjutsu. If he were a real magician, he would not be so embarrassed, but now he is facing thunder. He could only run away like crazy now, but the corner of his eyes glanced at a few people behind Lei, adjusted his direction, seized the momentary gap, and rushed towards them. Hee. Lousy can't do anything to him, but he can do it to you first. It turned into a fleeting silhouette, killing towards them without hesitation, and even the fireball bombarded behind them was gone. Haha, go to hell with Lousy. What, they actually treat us as weaklings, but... Feng Ning exclaimed, looking at Maji who was coming to kill them. They were not fools either, and their fighting spirit suddenly surged, and they were on guard with their swords. Maji's reaction was beyond Lei Ting's expectation, but he did not panic. After watching Maji kill Feng Ning and several others, he immediately formed a seal. Instantaneous technique. When it appeared, it had already been intercepted in front of Maji. How could I let you succeed? Lei sneered at him, and at the same time, he punched Maji. Strange power. Impossible, Maji exclaimed. Obviously he was still behind just now, how could he be so fast? While exclaiming, his reaction was not unpleasant. He raised his hand and struck towards thunder. It's just that thunder is faster. Bang, poof. Maji's chest was instantly hit, and a mouthful of blood spurted out. His body was simultaneously knocked out by the terrifying force and hit the ground heavily. After spitting out a mouthful of blood again, Maji's face turned very ugly. Although he came back to life, he could clearly feel that it was more difficult to breathe. It was obvious that his body had been severely injured. Are you going to die? Maji looked at the indifferent figure in front of him, feeling very unwilling. He's not dead. Lei's eyes widened. Maji was so miserable. The black robe on his body was torn apart due to the friction with the ground, his whole body was covered in blood, his face was pale, and his chest was even sunken. Lei stood there without moving, looking at the pale Maji. He was afraid that Maji would suddenly attack the people behind him. He had experienced the strength of the swordsman before. Lu Wu and the others are definitely not his enemies. The two just stared at each other, both in disbelief. One can't believe he is so strong. One doesn't believe he can carry it so well. The two of them faced off like this. Lei was worried that Maji would suddenly explode under desperate circumstances. Maji, on the other hand, was afraid of Thunder's strength and did not dare to take action easily. With his current physical condition, he might only have one chance. Maji looked at Lei who stood motionless and said with murderous intent, "You little, even if I die, I will hold you on my back to avenge my Ma family." Haha, this is your retribution. Lei laughed, as if he was mocking Maji with a harsh tone. Haha, retribution, yes, the benefits are overwhelming, there is nothing wrong with it. Maji's eyes were cold and filled with incomparable malice. Then, he thought of a martial skill buried deep in his heart, his face showed even more madness, and his voice suddenly became sharp. But, even if I die, I will drag you and the people behind you to be buried with the Ma family. Come with me. Let's go with the Ma family. Amidst the crazy shouts, all the fighting energy in Ma Ji's body surged. When Ma Ji's eyes were ferocious, a hurricane formed on the surface of his body, and then merged into his body in an instant. At the same time, Ma Ji's body continued to expand. No, that guy seems to be about to blow himself up. Lu Wu looked at Ma Ji's crazy appearance and his ever-expanding body, and his expression suddenly changed. He yelled at Lei Lei and the others, "Back off, back off." It's just that his reminder was too late. Haha, in the name of my blood-judged horse family. Come die with me. Ma Ji endured the huge pain in his body and shouted with a ferocious face. The sharp voice rang over Ma's house, wind and residual clouds. Following Ma Ji's crazy sound, countless small fighting spirits condensed with wind attributes accompanied by blood broke through his tight fur in an instant. Then with terrifying power, it swept away in all directions. This was a level 6 martial skill he obtained accidentally. After he practiced it, he never used it because as long as he used this martial skill, he would die together with the enemy. You will also die miserably. The gain outweighs the loss. But he did not expect that in the most important place of the Ma family, all the children of the Ma family were dead, and he also held the belief that he would die. This blow will take away the enemy in front of you. Countless tiny bits of fighting spirit are like bullets, sweeping away all obstacles around them. Ma Ji stared at Lei Lei and the others with widened eyes. He wanted to see Lei Lei and the others fall in front of him. Looking at the panicked figure, there was even more excitement in his eyes. Haha. Let's all die. It's too late. What to do? What a terrifying power. The power of these tiny fighting spirits has almost reached the power of level 6 martial arts. Yang Shui and the others looked at the small fighting spirit sweeping over in fear, and the shadow of death instantly enveloped them. They had no way to stop or evade this large-scale attack. They just clenched their long swords and surged with fighting spirit, preparing for the final resistance. But Lei Lei in front of them was indifferent, his eyes were indifferent, and he stood there, not hiding or dodge. Thunder. Looking at that strong back, it seemed that the existence of this figure could bring them a sense of peace of mind. Regarding the stress reactions of the following people, Lei Lei just shook his head slowly at them to reassure them. He was shocked by Ma Ji's determination and ruthlessness at the same time. Just as Ma Ji said, he couldn't hide or move. However, he also didn't take such attacks seriously. Thunder looked at Ma Ji's eyes, chuckled, and shouted at him mockingly, "I'm afraid I'm going to disappoint you." As soon as he finished speaking, his eyes were sharp, and surging power rushed out of his body in an instant. The last seal had been completed, and he shouted, "Magnet style, sand iron wall." Lei Lei looked at Ma Ji with a hint of ridicule in his eyes. As the seal was completed, the sand and iron rolled. In an instant, a huge solid wall made of sand and iron formed in front of him. Bump bump. The small fighting spirit that swept across hit the sand iron wall like countless bullets, making countless impact sounds. Then the violent impact only splashed countless sand and iron. The sand iron walls were even more motionless. Impossible. Ma Ji's eyes were as big as an ox's, his face changed drastically, and he turned pale with horror. He couldn't believe the scene in front of him. That man actually had such strength. He suddenly yelled in despair. He couldn't believe that the final blow was intercepted by the thunder. No, this is impossible. It must be fake. Ma Ji suddenly roared, his mouth full of blood. His last belief was to watch them die tragically in front of him and fall in front of him. But the reality is that he gave you a hammer blow. He couldn't believe that the level 6 martial arts was actually defended by that little fool. This is a powerful blow from the swordsman at the cost of his life. I'm afraid even the great swordsman can't defend himself. How did he do it? I'm not willing to give in. I want you to die. I'm not willing to give in. I want you to die together. Roaring, roaring, Ma Ji seemed to have lost his strength and fell down. He looks extremely miserable now, and there is no bright side left before. His whole body seemed to have been cut into pieces with thousands of knives, his clothes were all torn, and blood was flowing everywhere. Only the neck and above were intact. At this time, his body was trembling, and he looked closely at the approaching Lei Lei with his unwilling eyes. Lei Lei stood in front of him, looking at him coldly, without any sympathy, but asked coldly, "Tell me, where is Jar hiding?" But Ma Ji seemed to be lost in thought, his eyes just looked at him without any reply. Lei Lei frowned, his face suddenly turned sinister, and he said with murderous intent, "I can let your wives and daughters go, otherwise." After hearing what Lei Lei said, Ma Ji suddenly came back to his senses, his eyes focused on Lei Lei, and a trace of regret and sadness flashed across his face. Ma Ji opened his mouth, but he could only make a hoarse sound. The sound was very low, as if he was going to die at any time. Lei Lei felt that Ma Ji was about to die and couldn't hear clearly what he was saying, so he immediately leaned towards him and leaned his ear against him. Don't, on the east side." Just then, Ma Ji didn't know where he got the strength, he raised his hand and slapped Lei Lei on the heart. Ma Ji maintained this posture, with a smile on his lips. His head gradually lost its support and fell slowly, completely lifeless. Lei Lei felt the pain in his heart. If an ordinary person did not die, he would be seriously injured. But he was not furious. Instead, he looked at the head of the Ma family and felt a sense of admiration in his heart. Because until he dies, with his last bit of will, he will be taken away with him, which is difficult for ordinary people to do. With the death of Ma Ji, the sound of 9 trumpets also sounded in Lei Lei's mind. Congratulations to host, who killed the swordsman for the first time and gained 10,000 experience points and 5,000 contribution points. The moment Ma Ji fell to the ground, the entire hall was in an uproar, and pairs of eyes stared blankly at the figure who had created the miracle. For a moment, he didn't even come back to his senses. No one thought that the Ma family, which was so high-spirited and powerful in Xicheng not long ago, would now be blood-bathed by that young man. This unpredictable feeling made them feel as if they were in an illusion. "Ha ha, my Wu family is fine." Wu Xing, the head of the Wu family, came to his senses first and laughed. He was probably the most excited person here. When he came, he was worried, and he was even more worried about the future of his family. But now, looking at the corpses on the ground, the Ma family was finished. His biggest opponent fell at this moment, and the situation was completely different. Such a result was given to the young man all over his body. He looked at Lei Lei with piercing eyes, wishing he could rush over now. However, he still held back and glanced at the second master in front of him. "Ma Ji is dead, second master, the Ma family is really over." Yang Yi was a little shocked. He never expected that the young man actually did it. "Ha ha, Shui has made a good friend." Mr. Yang was not angry about Ma Ji's death and the destruction of the Ma family. If the Ma family is gone, there will naturally be another family to take its place. Then doesn't Wu Xing look over at it? As for the other big families in Xicheng, looking at the scene of corpses strewn everywhere, some enthusiasm flashed in their eyes. The Ma family, the giant in Xicheng, fell. The territory, resources, etc. previously occupied by the Ma family are obviously time to be redistributed. Each of them will naturally benefit greatly from it. As for the young man, it is obvious that he will not stay in Xicheng, so everything about the Ma family will be distributed by them. Lei Lei stood up slowly, not happy about the bloodbath of Ma's family, nor happy about the improvement in level and strength. Because Jar has not been found yet. Thinking of what Ma Ji said just now, he looked eastward. Eastern Villa. Even when a man is about to die, he speaks well. Then, without stopping at all, he quickly rushed towards the east. "Wow, I was scared to death. I thought I was going to see Tai Nai." Feng Ning patted her chest and said slowly, looking at the lifeless Ma Ji with lingering fear. "Look at your appearance." Yang Shui rolled her eyes at Feng Ning's exaggerated performance. "Yang Shui, don't talk about me anymore, you were so nervous just now." Feng Ning retorted directly, looked at Lei Lei's figure rushing out, and shouted, "Where are you going?" "I know where Jar is. The Ma family is in the other courtyard to the east." After saying this, Lei Lei's figure jumped lightly onto the roof, his eyes swept around, and the figure instantly rushed eastward and disappeared from everyone's eyes. "What? Which other courtyard on the east side? Wait for me." Feng Ning also reacted at this time, watching Lei Lei disappearing, and quickly followed him. Then Yang Shui, Lu Wu and others looked at each other and quickly followed. Even the people in front of the hall looked at Lei Lei's disappearing figure in confusion, but some people still followed him. They also wanted to join in the fun. Whoosh! A moment later, the figure of Thunder stood on the roof, with a smile on his lips. Looking at the other courtyard in front, 10 little red people were displayed on the small map. It should be right here. Lei Lei looked up and without hesitation, rushed towards the other courtyard. Surprisingly, this is also the Ma family's villa. No one could have imagined that 100 meters away from the Ma family was actually a secret courtyard of the Ma family. The courtyard is not very big. After passing through the tall courtyard wall, there is only a simple house in sight. The surrounding area is very empty and there are no obstacles. Anyone who breaks in will be discovered immediately. As the Thunder suddenly rushed in, the guards on guard immediately spotted the figure rushing in and shouted, "Who is it?" Just as he finished speaking, a drop of condensed water instantly penetrated his head. Congratulations to host, you killed the intermediate swordsman and gained 100 experience points and 50 contribution points. Tell the owner quickly. Someone broke into the other courtyard. Seeing someone being killed instantly, the guards who gathered around started to panic. Hee, the reaction speed is very fast, but they are all dead. You should go down and accompany them. Lei Lei looked at the guards gathered in front of him, quickly formed seals with his hands, and shouted in a low voice. Fire style, fire dragon flame bullet. As the voice fell, a huge fire dragon swept towards these guards and devoured them instantly. Congratulations to host, you killed 6 junior swordsmen and 3 intermediate swordsmen, and gained 600 experience points and 300 contribution points. After killing these guards, Lei Lei's figure disappeared instantly and was already standing at the door of the house when he appeared. Right inside, Lei Lei's eyes were a little nervous. He looked at the door in front of him and pushed it open. He was shocked by the scene inside. Go to hell. Just when he was stunned, a petite figure quickly ran out and attacked Thunder. But Lei Lei did not dodge or take action. A smile appeared on his face. Then he reached out with one hand, held the arm that was swung at him, and said slowly, "It's me, Jar." Looking at Nizi who was safe in front of him, Lei Lei felt relieved instantly. Ah, it's Brother Lei, you're finally here. Jar reacted immediately. Looking at the longing face in front of her, she was instantly overjoyed. Just looking at Lei Lei's dark expression, Jar couldn't help but become nervous and threw herself into Lei Lei's arms. Brother Lei, it's so nice to see you. It's okay, Jar. Lei Ting's angry expression disappeared instantly. While patting Jar on the back, he looked at the situation in the room. There were almost dozens of people crowded in the small space. They crowded together tightly, showing their nervous and panic faces. Most of these people are women, and there are a few children. All of them are extremely haggard. At this time, they all looked at the sudden appearance of Thunder with numb eyes. Human trafficking. Lei Lei thought of these 4 words immediately, and suddenly became furious in his heart. He wanted to beat Ma Jizai several times. Lei Lei roared in his heart. This person from the Ma family really deserved to die, and he actually engaged in human trafficking. Brother Lei, they are all so pitiful. They were all caught here. Who asked you to run out alone? Do you know how dangerous it is? Your brother almost died on the road. Looking at Jar who had no repentance, Lei Lei suddenly became furious and yelled at her directly. If I hadn't met your eldest brother on the road, do you know the consequences? You will also be trafficked out. Having said this, Lei Lei's heart palpitated and he felt deeply grateful at the same time. Okay, Brother Lei, am I okay? And I also believe that you will come to save me. Jar gently shook Lei Lei's arm, his eyes moved, and he narrowed his eyes slightly. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.